What's going on? I am Nando.
Oompa loompa doopity Diggins. I am the host whose name is Diggins.
And this is Mostly Nitpicking, a podcast where every week we pick apart a piece of pop culture by looking exclusively at the details. Woohoo!
Oompa loompa doopity doo. This is the part where we all say woo.
Now, Diggins, I want to tell you that actually it's Lumpa in the movie. You said Lumpa. Lumpa.
That's crazy.
That is pretty silly. I guess it's weird because it's the only time a British person, well, no, I'm sure British people in the movie have said Oompa Loompa like in any of the original ones, but usually it's Willy Wonka, American guy. So maybe it is just like a different way to pronounce it.
I mean, Willy Wonka's only an American guy in the movie because he's played by Gene Wilder.
Right.
And I think the whole thing is kind of transplanted to America, sort of.
That's true. Yeah. Man, these movies are interesting because they are so vague in certain ways. And we'll get to it. But two things. Let's do the first thing real quick. DJ is not here, obviously, but Diggins is. Diggins, Hi. You were in The Hague last week because of Sam Bankman-Fried. Mm-hmm. It was DJ told me about that. Yeah. And I'm curious what happened, how you got out, or just what, are you still there? What's going on?
No, so like that one Croatian guy who did all those war crimes, I snuck a substance onto the stand with me as I was being sentenced for my crimes. After I'd been convicted, of course, and I drank it on the stand, thus dying.
Wow.
Or so it appeared to all the observers. They were like, oh no, he drank cyanide just like that other guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he pulled the Dave or whatever, you know? That's something that happens there so often.
But instead, I had actually gotten a chocolate concoction from Mr. Wonka that allowed me to fake my death, suppressed my vitals for a couple hours, and then slip out of the Hague's morgue back across the border to Belgium, where due to the legacy of King Leopold, they still approve of war crimes.
Interesting. That makes sense. I wonder if the chocolate Willy Wonka gave you is special chocolate, or you've had so much chocolate over the course of your life that your heart just stopped naturally because you had reached your chocolate limit, and then your body got it back together or something, I guess. But
you know, it honestly could be either one.
Yeah. Crazier things have happened. We will talk about it. The other crazy thing that happened here's what that is. So we have this fantastic software that we use for the podcasts. It's probably a lot of times that I've been on.
Say foolproof.
Yeah, I've been on several podcasts that use this. I'm like, all right, sick. We're gonna use it. And it does this cool thing where, like, if it records you, it will have like the recordings will go in the background. So even if you like lose internet or something, it's able to save almost all of it. So it is very hard, like you're saying, to lose the recording. The only problem, and this is a really silly flaw that's built into this, is you need to turn the recording on for it to record the podcast.
Really, it's such a ridiculous oversight on their part.
I don't know how they missed it. They should make it instead just do it automatically. When you say, hey, what's going on? Then it just starts, you know? And you use any of those words, hey, what's going on? Then boom, this must be a podcast. So for that reason, we recorded a full hour probably of the podcast about Willy Wonka news. We did the whole summary thing, and then Diggins had just gotten to the end of the summary, and then we realized it had not recorded. So we're going to do this all again with weird energy, way too fast, because we want to get to the stuff that we haven't said yet. But just know that's why.
I've been studiously repeating all of my jokes.
Yep. And I've been trying to add some new ones to throw them off a scent, but we'll see, because now it's time for the news of the week. You got some news real quick. Jonathan Majors, guilty of assault and harassment of his ex-girlfriend.
We no longer need to throw allegedly in when we talk about him.
Yep. And immediately fired by Marvel. And I presume probably other stuff, but definitely Marvel. So he's no longer Kang. Interesting. Good.
So we previously talked about what they might be doing. They might be recasting him, or um, just making it like there was that report a while ago that they were thinking about just replacing Kang with Doctor Doom.
Yeah, that's a bad
Um,
idea. But they might do
yeah,
it. It's never stopped it before.
I love the idea that this is just the final nail in the coffin, where they're like, this phase didn't matter, it didn't happen. We're just in a new phase now. That
Yeah,
last phase didn't mean anything.
honestly, it's like it is going to be just whatever 5 things people like the most. Shang-Chi, Florence Pugh, the Eternal, that was Camille Nanjiani or whatever, and they're just going to each get a movie or something, and we're going to pretend that was the plan all along. These are new Avengers. Where's Captain America? We don't know. Everybody kind of forgot he existed.
Well, his show was really bad, and so we stopped having him show up.
Yeah, well, his character is actually very busy working on the logistics of getting everybody new houses, because he
Yeah,
sat down with all those guys. Was like, here's my actual plan, though, and it was just
yeah.
complicated. So
After
it
the
takes a lot of time.
show, like all the politicians sat down with him and are like, "So you said do better. Do you have
Yeah,
any like recommendations for what that is?" He was like, "Of course. How absurd would it be if it turned out that my whole like big ending political philosophy was that politicians should be better than they are?"
yeah, that would be a good idea, actually. Though, if our politicians could do better, do you think maybe that was a play? Like it was a subtle take on Bob Chapek at the time or something, and his notes, and he just would like make the show better. And then like, all right, but what do you want us to change? Just make it a better show, okay? I think
Just make the
we
show
all
good
understand.
instead of bad.
Yeah, make it better. But yeah, so that's interesting. Jonathan Major stuff. It is funny. Someone did point out that he is mostly known for playing a character named He Who Remains. He no longer remains. Um, kind of funny. But that is not the most exciting news of the. I mean, it might be the most exciting news. It's not the one that's fun to talk about. They did very sad screenings for Aquaman. Um, Speaking of movies no one ever
Right.
watches.
Hugh Grant esque,
Yeah,
as some
honestly,
have said.
very, very like low energy. Just, hey, everybody, here we are. Because they didn't do a premiere for Aquaman 2 The Lost Kingdom. They just had at least one, but I think it was several fan screenings that Jason Momoa and director James Wan attended and gave speeches. At least Momoa did. I actually haven't seen Wan's speech, where he basically said, guys, this is real great to make a movie. Man, making movies is hard. What are we doing here? All right, well, here it goes. Like, it's very sad. And they're gonna make this movie. People probably watching it right now, allegedly. That's what the
Allegedly.
allegedly can go to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I saw that there were theaters that said they were playing Aquaman 2 when I went to see this movie, and I'm
mhm.
still not 100% convinced.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Aquaman 2 may end up being the Red Notice or Sound of Thunder or whatever of 2024. Well, I guess Sound of Thunder is the Sound of Thunder of 2024. But maybe it will be the highest grossing movie ever made. And you know what? Probably not, but maybe. But also, it would be great. I'm sure Warner Brothers would be psyched, because they're probably going to have to go bankrupt or merge with Paramount or something. Because that was the big news of the week. Is
They need they need a larger cache of movies to cancel.
yeah, they're going to cancel everything. They're canceling Dune. They're canceling Twisters. We went through a whole list. I don't have the list in front of me anymore. But you know, what it would be funny if
There's
Paramount bought
just
the.
imagine every moderately popular movie from the 90s. They're
Yeah,
doing a sequel to that.
that's right. And then eventually maybe Superman, Joker 2, that one's going to be in there.
Folly
It's
Ado.
Folly Ado, that's right. It's going to be a weird one. I was going to say, wouldn't it be funny if there was a Paramount executive who bought the rights to that Looney Tunes movie or something, or a Coyote v Acme, who was just like, guys, I have a great idea. And then they started the meeting. I'm like, all right, first thing we're going to do is merge with Warner Brothers. And he was like, oh boy. And then he ate his paper that said buy the Warner Brothers movie or something. Man, I don't know. I mean, it's great that we have two of these, right? Because we have the Disney Fox one, and now we have the Warner Brothers Paramount one.
Mhm.
So
What I want us to keep going until there's only a single media company that controls every studio, distribution channel,
yep,
everything in the entire world.
including this podcast. That
Hmm.
way, the Ninja Turtles and Clockwork Orange and Bluey and us can all go watch Space Jam 3 from the sidelines, watch, I don't know, who's a popular basketball player right now. I mean, still kind of LeBron James, but,
I mean, he's not even retired.
yeah, he's still going. And I think he had a great time making that first Space Jam movie. The one where the AI algorithm was the bad guy and stuff. It's a really interesting movie looking back 2 years later. How much stuff they nailed. But
I mean, even at the time, I think in that podcast, we talked about how it's weird how they made a movie about how what they're doing is bad.
Yep. And they've just continued to do it. And now, maybe bankruptcy. We'll see. But you guys, and by you guys, I mean you Diggins, we got to talk about Wonka, the movie of the week, the biggest movie. Whoa. Just real quick, want to check, make sure we're recording. We are. All right, Wonka. You guys, they're going into the Wonkaverse for a third Wonka movie so far that we know of. This one is a prequel starring Timothée Chalamet, definitely directed by Paul King. Paddington's Own. Yeah, I think so too. I think he's got one other guy that he writes most of his movies with, and it's that guy.
Yeah, Simon Farnaby and Paul King are the writers on this. And
I'm pretty sure Simon Farnaby is a character in this movie. That sounds like the name of like the mysterious fourth chocolatier we never see. Oh, and Roald Dahl wrote the movie too?
Well, he's credited here. I have a feeling it might be a character's by credit and not an actual writer's credit.
That's a bummer. He always elbow the creators out while he's dead, right? He's always still alive. Yeah, okay.
He's very dead.
Yeah. Well, too bad he didn't live to see Wonka. He didn't live to see it. Well, did he see? He must have seen the original.
Yeah, the original was made like not that long after the book came out.
Do we think he made it to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
I'm not sure. When did Roald Dahl die? Roald Dahl died in 1990, so definitely not.
Oh, man, good. Because that would have been awkward if he had to be like, it's more like the book, so I like it more. This is always what I hoped. It's, yeah, but then they made this...
be like, well, the good news is they still haven't cast any of those pesky Jews.
Is that a thing of his? Probably, yeah.
He's kind of an anti-Semite. Yeah, a little bit.
Well, the movie, they got a new Willy Wonka out. It's Timothée Chalamet now instead of Johnny Depp, instead of Gene Wilder. There's probably some other characters in it from the other ones. Not really. I guess if you count the Oompa Loompa as just some Oompa Loompa, I guess he's in there.
Technically, Slugworth, Prodnose, and Fickelgruber are characters he made up. Although they weren't really characters. Never wrote characters for them, but the names are from the books.
Is there any buckets in this movie? Just like a bucket?
No buckets.
Huh.
Which honestly, good.
Don't they know the rules? He's gotta walk by a bunch of things, and then one of them's got to be a bucket. And he goes, "I like buckets," and then walks by, and we all go, "Oh, that's what they meant."
I do believe one of my first jokes when we first heard about and we're talking about the trailer drop for this was the suggestion that Willy Wonka would have a torrid affair with Mrs. Bucket in this movie.
Oh, that would have been great. I mean, there's still time. They could do a sequel. Seems like this is making money. I think it's relatively popular. I don't know what the budget. I think the budget was like $100 million, so it has to, do more than that. And it seems like I think it has with overseas money. I think in America, like a domestic, it's in the 30s or 40s. But since it didn't cost $500 million to make, it could still succeed.
Yeah. Did you know that if you don't spend an entire country's GDP making a movie, that it's easier to turn a profit on it?
I didn't know that, but that does make sense. But then the question remains, how do you age down Harrison Ford into smooth Harrison Ford if you don't spend the GDP of a country?
Especially
how do you do
if you want to do it in all of the dailies.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, so Wonka. I wonder if the dailies, do you think, what's his name? Hugh Grant was like, show me orange. I want to see my orange performance.
I don't think Hugh Grant wanted a single second more to do with this.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. They probably wanted to put makeup on him, and he was like, absolutely not. You could do orange in post. Goodbye. I'm already saying my lines in my car. This is a phone call. Hang up. He's, Hugh Grant, we'll get to it, but a fascinating fellow. But we got to talk about Wonka. So we did the summary thing. Well, how did that go, Diggins?
Well, we didn't do a bad job.
No, we did
But
okay.
neither of us did a noticeably better job. So we did like 3 ties deep
Yeah.
before I simply conceded and it was like, I'll just do the summary, whatever.
And people will be like, well, what could your ties have possibly been? So we did we did the summary for Wonka, and then we went back and did the summary for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and then we went back and did the summary for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And none of them, like some we did better than others, but none of them, one of us did better than the other on. So we were it was a dead heat. And at the end of the final one, Diggins very graciously conceded and gave it to me. So we are, I guess we'll just do that again, but at 15 times the speed. But before that, I do want to try this since we got some time.
Well, just to read the
IMDb
summary.
Let's do that.
We usually do that. So the IMDb summary for Wonka is: with dreams of opening a shop in a city renowned for its chocolate, a young and poor Willy Wonka discovers that the industry is run by a cartel of greedy chocolatiers.
And like both of our summaries all have pretty much that. Neither of us called him poor because we were being nice and the summary was being mean. But then when we did the rest,
we just don't think people should be judged by their economic circumstances, unlike the summary.
Who wrote this summary? Oh, I guess Slugworth wouldn't have written this summary because he would have been like a bunch of heroic chocolate men. I don't know, some outside observer, the Mrs. Lovett character probably, or whatever. What's her name? Mrs. Slovett? It's like
Mrs. Scrubbit.
Scrubbit. There we go.
She's a laundry person.
Yeah, Mrs. Scrubbit probably wrote the summary. She loves the riches and hates the poors. But I wanted to do this. Someone mentioned this on the Discord. I don't know who, but someone, or maybe this was Twitter, could have been anywhere, at one point mentioned, hey, it's weird that you guys do it in this order, summarize the movie and then did the review. And I think originally we did it that way because we wanted the punishment to come first, because that is, funnier. But then they made the point, whoever it was, said basically it doesn't really make sense because then if someone doesn't know if they want to see the movie, they don't want to hear you just tell them all the events of the movie and then say, oh, I liked it. There's people that will want to know if the movie is good or bad or whatever we say before we completely spoil it, which makes sense to me, especially for movies like this. Maybe not, Candy Cane Lane or whatever, but like this movie that is somewhat of an enigma.
How dare you suggest that Candy Cane Lane wasn't a masterpiece?
I mean, we were all watching it last week. Everybody talked about it. It was the most watched movie they've ever done or some bullshit, whatever they say. I don't know. Well, they had some weird qualifiers.
It was Amazon, right? Not Netflix?
It was.
I think they usually... Do they bother lying about this stuff?
Yeah, they did. I mean, theirs is probably true, but it's just like compared to what? Like, you don't release that many movies. So yeah, I guess this would be in the top 10 Christmas movies you've ever made or something. They did have some, it feels like all of these high profile movies come with the press release like that. And you really have to dig in to figure out what that one means. And I did not do that for Candy Cane Lane, but so far I have not heard anybody be like, oh yeah, I watched that. And I've talked to a couple people and said like, yeah, I watched Candy Cane Lane. So
you and DJ are the only people I know who have watched that movie, as far as I know.
And before we did it on the podcast, I didn't know it existed. Like, it was not a movie I was even kind of remotely. So, it's also not a great sign. But yeah, so let's do that this time. We'll see how we feel about it. And then if we like it, we can keep doing it. If we don't, we can go back to the old ways.
Well, then Nando, as our technical winner, you get to tell us what you thought of the movie first.
So I, as the person who, and obviously, we'll get to this in a couple of weeks, but predicted Wonka would be good, have a very large incentive to pretend that it's good, much like I do with the Halo show every week, a show we all like, and the new season's coming, baby, season 2.
Yeah, and they put out that poster of the show where everyone was like, he should wear the helmet more.
No.
The first thing he does is not wear the helmet.
Want to see that beautiful mug, that Master Chief face, so we can't imagine ourselves in his shoes. That is an effective way to do it. Soon that'll be Warner Brothers. He can go hang out with Wonka next time, because that's a Paramount show, I think. It's one of the only ones I don't have. Not that I would watch it, but yeah. So I had a big
Even though
incentive.
it's so good and the best show of the year, you wouldn't watch it?
That's what I've heard. That's why I can't have seen it. I cannot have known if it was good or bad. Maybe it was. Maybe people have been wrong about things before, and the public opinion has been wrong about certain things. I mean, I usually agree with the public, but maybe I'd love the Halo show. I don't know. But you guys, so I obviously had a huge advantage or incentive to like this movie, and I do think I went in going like pretty like with an open mind because I like Paul King, and I like Paddington. I think Timmy Chalamet is okay in general. Like, I'm not a humongous fan of his. I think he's good. I think he's funny, but like, he's not my favorite star ever. And everybody else in the movie, like, it's an interesting kind of eclectic cast of just all the random British people. Some of them I like, but knowing all that, and also being a big fan of musicals generally, and not having any affinity for Willy Wonka whatsoever. I couldn't care less about the original movie, or the bad one, which I hate. But anyway, all that said, I loved it. I had a great time with this movie. I think it's not perfect, and I don't think everything is working. It's definitely not at the level of Paddington, but it is better than this movie. The way it is pitched, and especially the way they released the first promotional image where it kind of had him standing at the top of a staircase, kind of like Joker. And it was like, oh my God, this is like another fucking origin movie that nobody asked for.
I thought it was crazy when they had him go down the stairs to
yeah. I mean, Gary Glitter's from England, so it makes sense. This is.
Do you think everyone's going to those stairs in London? All the huge Wonka heads.
The Wonka heads. Yeah, that's what, because we all have our edgy dudes in America who think they're all the Joker, but everybody in England who's edgy thinks they're Willy Wonka. Put on the little hats and get some whimsy like canes and stuff. But yeah. So I mean, after the promotional thing, and then kind of thinking about it in terms of, like we were saying, because Twisters, right? And like they make these a lot, sequels or prequels. But I do think this movie, and I also don't think it did a great job of capturing exactly what Gene Wilder was doing. Like, it definitely isn't exactly that kind of take on this kind of character, but on the terms that it's set by being itself. I think this movie was very successful. I thought the music was great and like super catchy. And it felt like, and I forget who I talked about this with, who I think had seen it. Oh, we were talking about just musicals in general. This feels like you could put it up on Broadway tomorrow if you wanted to. Like the tunes, the staging, like it just felt perfect for that. Yeah, and so I was a big fan. I don't know if it's like my favorite movie of the year or anything, but like very, very, very good time. Nice length too, not too long, but a lot of stuff happens.
It's not a tight 90.
It's not, but is it over 2 hours? I don't think it is.
I think it's a little over 2 hours.
Okay. Yeah, if it is, just by a hair. And also right when it starts getting long, that's when Oompa Loompa shows up. And then you're like, the energy comes back. But I do think also this movie is paced really well with the songs that I liked. So like there's, every so often you do start to kind of lose some energy and then you get a real fun dance number. So I do think the movie's kind of front loaded with them, but that tends to be how these go. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Diggins, what did you think of 2023's Wonka?
Well, as someone who wants to win at all costs and hates to see other people succeed, I had a huge incentive to not like this movie. To campaign for it to be considered bad, so that I could crush Nando's dreams and claim victory over the battered corpse of all of his hopes.
Much like up until now you've been doing with the Halo show we all liked. Like you've been pretending you don't like it because you want me to lose, when in reality it's a humongous hit everyone loves. Otherwise, why would they make a second season?
Yeah. Why would they make a second season of a show that nobody liked?
Why would they make a second season of a show that nobody liked? Why? I don't know.
They were like, we didn't get enough of Cortana getting cucked in season 1. We need more cucking.
I mean, I hope they have some. I mean, I remember seeing people that were like, "Oh man, this trailer looks great," and then they put out that damn poster. I mean, maybe there's just an intern who's like, "I know exactly what the people want," and they make all the posters. I don't know. Either way, Halo's great. Wonka's great. Diggins, back to you.
Yeah, so as I was saying, huge incentive to say that Wonka is a bad movie and that I hated it and that nobody should see it because it's so terrible. Basically, pull a DJ about what was the movie he like had a really unexpected vitriol for?
I can't.
Was
A
it
Ballad of Songbirds and
Yeah,
Snakes.
Ballad of
Yeah,
Songbirds and Snakes, who's like really came hot out the gate hating that
dog shit. That's what it is. That's.
one. And that's my opinion of Wonka.
And I slept through most of it. So yeah, that's how I really didn't like it.
That's my opinion of Wonka. Wait, strike that. Reverse it.
Oh my God, that was whimsical, Diggins. I thought you were going to say something negative, but instead it was positive.
It's positive. Wonka's really good. I can't believe I'm saying these words out loud, but the Wonka movie's really good.
Paul King doesn't miss. His hit rate is unparalleled, unless he's made some bombs before Paddington that I don't know about, but I'm going to just assume he has not.
I don't know Google. Either. I'm not familiar with his filmography outside of the Paddington movies either.
I don't think anybody is. Oh, he did Mighty Boosh. That's right.
I know people who like that.
It's kind of funny. It's not really my thing, but I appreciate it.
I'm sorry. We're doing an experiment with having cameras on now, and the face Nando was making as he was like, "It's okay."
It's okay.
Like struggling mightily against his real opinion to make it sound more positive.
Like, I don't enjoy it, but I appreciate it, and it's like, and I like the people that make it. One of them's in this. The guy who is the comedian, I think, is one of the guys from Mighty Boosh. Oh, okay. But yeah, so that seems like that's his highest profile thing outside of the Paddingtons. And he also directed 2 episodes of that Space Force show. So if you want to find something, that might be it. The thing that is not as good.
But this is good. No, I agree with a lot of things you said, Nando. I think the music is like very fun and like energetic. It's very charming and like whimsical. I do think that like the fact that it isn't really super reminiscent of the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka, that it really does feel like its own kind of spin on the whole idea, is honestly to the movie's strength.
Oh yeah,
because I feel like a problem with a lot of Willy Wonka stuff since that first movie is everyone's just trying to be Gene Wilder again, and it's like you can't be Gene Wilder better than he is.
Yeah.
And so it just feels like an imitation. Whereas this really does, like that the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka is a trickster, is a Bugs Bunny type. Or this one wins a lot heavier on the like whimsy and imaginativeness and all of that. And so it feels qualitatively different. But like I said, I think that gives it that Paddington air of like wholesomeness that really distinguishes from it and helps make it feel like its own thing. And then the things that it's doing are really good. It's also a really funny movie.
Yeah,
like
it's funny.
I was surprised how much a lot of those jokes got me.
And it's full of comedians. Like it's one of those, like the Mighty Boosh guy is a good example of like so many of the castmates where you're like, what's this guy's deal? Comedian.
Yeah, but there was just like a lot of like little bits running through the movie that I really enjoyed. Like I liked Matt Lucas's guy, Prod Nose. Every time that they were the chocolatiers were trying to be threatening, they'd be like, maybe he'll have a little accident. And then Matt Lucas would chime in, that he dies of.
Yeah.
Yes, no, we all understood what we meant. Yes.
And that pays off real good. I liked everything they did with that joke.
Yeah. There's just like a lot of little things in there that were just funny and good. And it's just, I don't know. I'm as shocked as anyone, but it's a really good movie. I think it's what we all hoped Wish would be.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is where all the people that write the music were the day they decided to make Wish, was they were all busy doing Wonka. Because, like, man, it's night and day. It's almost like, and this is what I feel like it must feel like for people that like The Greatest Showman. Because I don't really like The Greatest Showman, but when they
It's
get
not
into
very
this.
good.
Yeah, it's like and there's bits of it that are catchy, and it's kind of fun. But like this is exactly what that is for me, where it's just like musical, crowd pleasing, good time, and yeah, and it's like another like kind of winter, like Christmas one of those. So I'm
Are
not
you
shocked
gonna?
it's hitting because it is a pretty popular. Like I said, it's number one this week. But yeah, I was not expecting. I could see a world where it bombs even if it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is sort of a trend we've seen in box office lately, in ways that were not always true before. Which is that movies that are good are been tending to do at least okay at the box office, whereas the movies that were bad did bad. And
Yeah,
it's like, it turns out that eventually you have to make the movies good.
and it also seems like for a movie like this, part of the appeal, besides the just the movie itself, is like similar to I think the appeal of Barbie for sure. Honestly, kind of Oppenheimer, not as much, but it's just like you see these trailers, you're like, what is this? Like, I do kind of want to figure this out because I am so curious about it. Like, I would rather find this out today by going to see it in a movie theater than waiting, 2 weeks or however long it will be until it shows up in streaming. But um, yeah, this movie, maybe that's why they, advertise it and show none of the stuff that is, appealing about it musically. So
Or anything or otherwise.
yeah, it's yeah, it's interesting. Um, it's this year. It was Wish. This. Are there any other movie musicals besides Color Purple, which just came out? Were there
I
others
mean,
earlier in the year?
extremely different kind
I can't
of movies.
remember. Yeah,
Uh,
although that one I feel like is more closer to this in terms of just like feeling more Broadway than Wish, which feels like kind of top 40 um, nonsense. Um, but yeah, I don't. Oh, I guess Hunger Games had music in it. I actually had a good amount of music too.
yeah. There's that new Trolls movie. They have all those pop songs in them.
Oh yeah, they do have all the pop songs in those. That's a good point. Guardians of the Galaxy's got a lot of music. Chris Pine plays the guitar in Dungeons and Dragons. We love that. Um, yeah, I guess it's not. It's definitely
There's
not.
the new Little Mermaid this year.
Oh yeah, the new old Little Mermaid.
The new old the one, yeah.
Yeah, this is probably and Barbie kind of. It's got some
Sort of.
musical bits. I would say if I mean I'd love it if it was that the whole time, but um, yeah, maybe that's part of the success of this year. Just Hollywood embracing the musical. Maybe that's why theater camp was so fun because they're the silliest people that like musicals, um, of which I count myself as one. But yeah, what else? What else? What do we think of? Oh well, now we do the summary part.
Yes, because now we've said how we feel, which is that we both like this movie.
Yeah, pretty much both fans. I think if DJ was here, he would say it's dog shit, and then he'd go, "Just kidding, you guys. I liked it too." That would be his bit. Um, and he'd really like wind up to it, but like about how much he hated it. And then, yeah, unless he would hate it. I mean, maybe I don't know. I haven't heard from anybody who really disliked this movie, but like it's not rocket 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. There must be people that don't like it. So I'd be curious what people aren't huge fans of. But yeah, so Diggins as
Some
the
people
loser.
are just curmudgeons who have hate in their heart, I guess.
Yeah, maybe they don't like chocolate. They just cannot
Love.
imagine a world where chocolate is drugs or whatever. um,
There's that.
or maybe they're Hugh Grant, and he hates watching this movie because it's not appealing to him whatsoever.
Hugh Grant and all of his children are the 16% of people who didn't like this movie.
Well, the children love it. I don't know. Did you see? You didn't see because we haven't talked about this yet. This is what Hugh Grant said about his kids. So I don't want to forget it. This is he was doing an interview with USA Today, and someone was asked him like, "What do your kids think of the movie?" And he says, "If they don't like it and tell me how marvelous I am, I won't feed them. They know the rules." So it's pretty good. Also, okay, well, these kids kind of They was talking about Paddington 2, and they say they were pretty upset by it, traumatized really. They kept turning to me and saying, "Why are you in it so much?" I think they were embarrassed. So these kids can't appreciate Phoenix Buchanan. They weren't going to get this for sure. It's so funny.
Well, anyway,
Anyway.
it is time for me to summarize this film and all of its happenings. If you are interested in I wouldn't say it's a movie that relies on you not knowing its plot, because I'm not going to sing the songs for you or nothing.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure there's, you know what? I think this is one of the only movie musicals where I'd be like, I can sing some of these songs. Timmy Chalamet, to his credit, is doing his best, but this is no Dear Evan Hansen performance when we have the greatest musical theater actor in all time.
That's true. It's
very true. Approachable. It's again, well, in the same way as kind of The Greatest Showman.
I just mean that, like, you know, if you care a lot about not getting spoiled and you want to see this movie, definitely go see it. I don't think that knowing the plot of the movie is going to change your enjoyment tremendously.
Yeah. I would say there's like a spoiler kind of, and then, you know, if you've seen the trailer, you can also put a lot of this together.
Right. But anyway, we join with young Master William Wonka.
Mm-hmm.
Or perhaps Wilhelm Wonka. We never really find out.
Wilhelmina, maybe?
Could be. He is arriving in a city after 7 years sailing across the world, perfecting his chocolate recipes, collecting strange ingredients, etc. And now he's determined to make his fortune on the Gallery Gourmet, a world-famous plaza filled with chocolate shops.
Yeah.
But he's still a young, poor and naive lad, and before the day is out, he has lost all of his money, all 12 silver sovereigns that he brought with him, in various mishaps conveyed to you in a musical fashion.
It's a silly little song, and he's a silly little guy.
It's true.
Hey Diggins, when does this musical take place?
Don't worry about it.
Okay, cool. Where is this also?
Don't worry about that either.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure.
Probably in England somewhere. Probably.
Yeah, that sounds right. And I think I would say, like, time-wise, it is either Victorian times or like the 50s or 40s or 50s, maybe.
I feel like it's got to be like the 50s or 40s, because the 70s is when he does the whole golden ticket thing.
I believe canonically, because I did look this up between now and then, he is born in the 1914 or 1919 or something like that. And this is technically, according to the people that made it, supposed to be like, well, I think they said it's supposed to be an origin for Willy Wonka that we meet the Gene Wilder version. But like, I think they meant it in the sense that, like, yeah, they're kind of the same guy.
Yeah, I don't know if you track everything 100% if it all fits together, but
well, I do think that if that is the case, something happened to this Willy Wonka in the years between the end of this movie and the beginning of the next one. Something very bad. He got jokered. I honestly, it's like
he got jokerfied. Yeah,
because I feel like we saw every side of him here, and he's pretty nice. Yeah, I don't think this guy would cut the chickens' heads off in the tunnel. Like, it just doesn't seem like his bag. But
what happened to him may have been gone by the names of Slugworth, Prodnose, and Fickelgruber, the three chocolatiers who own all the shops on the Gallery Gourmet. But we don't know too much about them yet. So he lost all his money and he's got to sleep out on the street, except it's too cold. But fortunately, a guy whose name I forget and Mrs. Scrubbit are the proprietors of a hotel of some sort that let him stay there and pay later for only a single silver sovereign every night. How reasonable.
And I want to say the character that you're describing, this man, his name isn't Flump, but it might as well be Flump.
Yeah,
I think it is something close to that, like Buffco or something.
I think it's like Bleacher.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think that is what it is. He's a very specific guy. I Like I caught the scrubbing, but I didn't catch that until now. What a good movie! It got even
Yeah.
good names.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, so he has to sign a contract before he can take the room, and the little girl who seems to work for Bleacher and Scrubbit tries to warn him to read the fine print, but he brushes her off and signs it anyway. Uh, and then he goes back to the Gallery Gourmet the next day to sell his hovo chalks, which are little chocolates that when you eat them, a fly is birthed in your stomach that makes you fly for a little bit, and then you
Yep.
fart it out.
And then that's it. That's the whole chocolate. It's also marshmallow themed or something, but like,
It's also got like caramel, marshmallow,
yeah.
and cherry in it. Sounds like a
Mm-hmm.
lot, but I mean, it also sounds like it could be really good.
It sounds like you could sell it with or without the flying thing, and he'd be like, "This is pretty good." Either it's like just the flying thing and no marshmallow, or marshmallow and no flying. But especially in a world where chocolate seems to be pretty boring, like
At least
they
this
would.
Gallery Gourmet chocolate does.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Outside of the Gallery Gourmet, it's pretty good, probably.
But speaking of the Gallery Gourmet's chocolate being boring, Slugworth, Fickelgruber, and Prodnose come out and tell him that his chocolate's garbage, and then have the police
Mm.
bust up his operation and take all the money he earned because you're not allowed to sell chocolate without a shop. So all Willy
I
Wonka
getcha.
gets is a single silver sovereign for all his trouble. So he goes to pay for his room, but it turns out there's a bunch of other charges for lots of other stuff besides just the room. So that he owes Scrubbit and Bleacher 10,000 silver sovereigns, which he can't hope to pay. So he's forced into indentured servitude working in their laundry business
Yep.
to pay off his debt. He meets a bunch of other people there. There's a former accountant, a plumber, a quiet woman who used to work for the telephone company, and a failed comedian,
Yep.
along with Noodle, of course. The little girl from before. I forget if I said her name was Noodle, but it's Noodle.
Yeah, I don't know if you did on this episode or the
Who
secret
could say?
episode that's gone
Impossible.
forever. Yeah.
Impossible. So they got to work there. He spends all day working in the laundromat. It's not a laundromat. It's in this time period, but whatever.
Yeah.
That night, he talks with Noodle and he promises her a lifetime supply of chocolate if she helps him to sneak out during the day so he can sell his chocolates and make back the money to buy off their debt. Because she also is in debt to 30,000 silver sovereigns because they're charging her for her upbringing
Yeah.
because they're libertarians.
Capitalism,
So
man. Yeah, exactly. The movie has a
um,
lot to say.
uh, they successfully trick Bleacher and Scrubbit into getting distracted by falling in love by getting Scrubbit to think that Bleacher is a Bavarian aristocrat and getting Bleacher to show off them gams.
Yep. That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm. Women love them gams.
Mm-hmm. I forget what Willy
God,
Wonka's like
I
little
was gonna
rhyme
say
for this was, but it was pretty
he's a little
good.
five. So like, she'd be thankful for some ankle, uh,
Yes.
and she'd be pleased with your knees. But if you want to make her sigh, you gotta show her that thigh.
That's right. Yeah. How see that's the thing. See, like that's the chickens getting their heads cut off in this movie of just like random bullshit where you're like, oh yeah, that's in this Willy Wonka movie. Um, which, not exactly the same flavor as chickens getting their head cut off, but still pretty weird.
But so they're able to successfully sneak out. But Willy Wonka's chocolate was stolen by the little orange man who comes in the night. So
Mm.
they've got to go get more giraffe milk so he can make more chocolate because he doesn't use regular milk. So they break into his zoo by giving the guard a chocolate that makes you experience a whole night out in like a couple minutes, including bad decision making while drunk. Uh, and then they befriend the giraffe named Abigail with little chocolates and chin scratches and milk her so that they can make chocolate. And they sing a little song because Noodle is like, I'm happy hanging out with Willy Wonka because he's cool, but also life has been bad to me, and I feel like I should keep my guard up. But he's
Mm,
still so cool. Um, but that's when the chief of police shows up because the chocolate cartel bribes the chief of police with free chocolate in order to bust up the competition and make sure no one can sell chocolate in this town besides them.
incredible.
So he tells Willy Wonka that he can't be selling any more chocolate or else he's going to get busted up. Uh, so that
Now that I'm thinking
evening,
about it, is that character also supposed to be American? He has like an accent, but now I'm thinking about it. Like, was that what he was going for?
I don't know. I mean, he does a pretty standard. If you watched Key and Peele, one of Key's like kind of standard accents
Mm-hmm.
of like being a tough guy.
Yeah, it's got a very like kind of Brooklyn, like, but also like 1920s kind of accent. But yeah, he's American. I would say he's more American than anybody else. Uh, which I mean, they let American people into England sometimes, but
Sometimes,
uh,
not since Brexit.
yeah, that's true. They used to back in the olden days of 1800s or 1940s or something.
Hmm.
So,
Uh, yeah. So that night, the rest of the laundry crew and Noodle and Willy Wonka plot to come up with ways for him to still be able to sell his chocolate even though the police are on his tail. Namely, that he escapes into the sewers whenever they're getting close so that he can kind of just pop up all throughout the city and sell his chocolate. And that works. They raise a bunch of money. Um, and they get enough money that they can rent a shop and sell their chocolate legally. And it looks like everything's on the up and up. But the chief of police has been tailing Willy Wonka and figured out like how he's been doing all this stuff, like escape through the sewers. So he informs the chocolate cartel that how he's been doing it, and that he and his accomplices are staying at Mrs. Scrubbits.
mm,
Slugworth seems to be familiar with Mrs. Scrubbits. Strange.
mm,
But they come up with a plan. Then they hire They hire Scrubbit and Bleacher to poison Willy Wonka's chocolate with Yeti sweat. So
genius.
when Willy Wonka's shop opens, he's doing a great business. He's selling lots of chocolate, but then everybody starts going wild, crazy colored hair because of the poisoned, because of the Yeti sweat poison that's been
Like the
put into it,
Trolls from
like the
Trolls the
trolls from
musical.
Trolls. Yeah.
Yeah, world tour.
Uh, and they all demand their money back and then get really mad and burn the shop to the ground.
That's how the things go in England when things don't go well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's very boomer bust. Either you're very popular or they burn your shop to the ground on the first day.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, why do you think they have so many soccer hooligans there? It's burning things to the
Yeah,
ground is a natural instinct for an
that's
Englishman.
a great point.
Uh, so Willy Wonka's all defeated, and that's when the Chocolate Cartel shows up, and they're like, "We'll pay off your and all your friends' debts to Scrubbit and Bleacher if you leave town and never make chocolate again." So Willy Wonka agrees to this, and gets sent off on a ship to the North Pole. That's where he'll never make chocolate again. But before he gets too far, Lofty, who is the Oompa Loompa, the little orange man, I forgot to mention this again in the proper place. Did this the first
Yeah.
time too, probably because it's not super important
Well,
until
at
right
least you
now.
mentioned the orange man stealing his chocolate. You did. The
Yeah,
orange
you
man
did that
has
last
come
time
up.
too.
Oh, did you? Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, Willy Wonka caught him at one point, and we found out that he was on guard duty when Willy took all the cocoa beans from Oompa Loompa Island.
Mm.
And so, because he was the one who let it happen, he has to go exact punishment under Oompa law, which is that any theft must be paid back 1,000-fold.
Reasonable. Very reasonable, you guys.
Yeah, that I don't know. Oompa law seems harsh to me, but what do I know? I'm not an Oompa Loompa.
Yeah. This is actually the origin for student loans. Is it's like
Yeah, we missed the post
one of
credit scene
one of the
where
Loompas.
walking along the street, Lofty the Oompa Loompa meets Margaret Thatcher.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, have you ever thought about destroying the government and making everyone pay for everything? And she was like, oh, cool, blimey, I've just come up with
Oh,
the Thatcherism.
wait a second. Is Margaret Thatcher's the picture of Miss Scrubbit? They're so similar. What?
Oh
They're
my
the same
god!
guy. I knew it.
Oh, it's all adding up.
And then the other guy is her husband or whatever. I assume Margaret Thatcher had
I
some.
think Margaret Thatcher was married.
I didn't
I
watch
don't
that
know.
movie. I'm a bad person.
The movie that Margaret Thatcher's from.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't watch the other history
course.
movies
Did
leading
you
up to
think
it, so I wouldn't get it,
Well, of course she's just from a movie. Do you think someone that comically evil could have existed in real life?
Exactly. So, now I don't like those movies. I like nice movies like Wonka. So that's why it appeals to me more now.
Yeah, no. So he's been stealing chocolate from Willy Wonka to pay back his debt under Oompa law. And he's here now because he's like, you still owe me one more jar of chocolate before we're even. And also thinks that he shouldn't listen to the chocolate cartel because they're not going to keep to their deal. And Willy Wonka realizes he's right because he realizes from the impression of a signet ring from Slugworth's extremely forceful handshake that there's a mysterious connection between Noodle and Slugworth that convinces Wonka that Slugworth isn't going to follow through on his promises. So they escape right as the ship is being exploded by dynamite because they weren't going to hold up to that promise either of him being able to just leave.
Yeah, I mean, if you got the dynamite, might as well use it.
Yeah,
it's fun.
The infernal machine, as they call it over
there.
But yeah, so it turns out Willy Wonka's right because Mrs. Scrubbit took the money not to pay off Noodle's debt. She pays off everyone else's debt and they're allowed to leave. But Noodle, she took the money as a bribe to keep Noodle imprisoned forever.
Unbelievable.
So she throws Noodle in the coop, which is solitary confinement.
Another prison room she's got.
The famously ethical and non-damaging punishment that we use all the time.
Yeah, and then in the second post-credit scene, John Prison from America came over and was like, Mrs. Scrubbit, what's this thing you've invented? And then that's where we got that from.
No, one of her lodgers who's paying normally sees this happen. And it's like, John, it's your cousin Marvin. Marvin Prison. You know that new punishment you've been looking for?
That's probably how, that is history. That's how they came up with the music. So maybe that's how a lot of stuff spread. This is why history is so much fun to learn about.
Exactly. But Willy Wonka and the other laundromat people show up to save her. And they've got a plan because this came up earlier, but again, it wasn't important until now. The accountant guy briefly worked as Slugworth's accountant, and he discovered that the chocolate cartel members have been watering down and skimming off the top of their chocolate for years and hiding all that excess chocolate in a big vault beneath a cathedral. And they use that excess chocolate to bribe the police and the other authorities so that they can make sure that no one else is ever allowed to sell chocolate besides the three of them. It's they're colluding, price fixing, engaging in anti-competitive practices. We were trying to think of a word for this before and we couldn't think of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like an oligopoly, mostly, I guess. It's what we have in America for everything. I don't even think there's a word for it. It's called an American business practice, like our Time Warner cables or our Pepsi Colas and stuff.
Pretty much.
That's how it works.
But so they've got a ledger that details all of their evil business practices. So our heroes decide that they're going to bust in and steal that ledger so that they can get all the chocolate cartel members arrested. So they concoct a plan. They set a giraffe loose in the cathedral that is above all that. A cathedral run by one Sir Bean.
That's right. He
Mhm.
is probably a sir. Yeah, for
Almost
sure.
certainly.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Uh, so they get in disguised as the zookeepers who are going to take the giraffe back. And Willy Wonka, I can't, I don't want to say Wonka, but I don't want to say Willy either. But also, I don't
Mm,
want to say Willy Wonka. It's like
yeah.
there's no good way to refer to him. But
Tim.
anyway, him
Timmy
and Noodle,
Chalamet. Bill
Timothy
Wonka.
Chalamet. Him and Noodle go down to the underground layer, and they find the ledger, and they're about to like go back and expose them. But the Chocolate Cartel members realized something was wrong when they heard about the giraffe, so they've shown up with a gun,
What? There's guns in these
with
movies?
a real actual gun.
Get the fuck out of here. This is like the Hunger Games when they just show up with guns and it's like, Jesus. This like I thought you lived in like fantasy storybook land. It really would be like if at the end of like Shrek somebody just had a gun. It's like, we're not supposed to have those here. As if Shrek is the fantasy story that we all know and love. Let's say Cinderella. Let's try that again. It's like if at the end of Cinderella, one of the characters just had a gun.
Shrek is the fantasy story we all know and love.
It apparently, yeah, and it's the only, we'll be getting a new one soon with classic guys like Donkey from Candy Cane Lane and stuff. So
That's true.
very excited. Hopefully, they exist in the same universe as Wonka, so they can cross over with Ninja Turtles and Reservoir Dogs and all that stuff.
We can only hope.
Fingers crossed.
And that one X-rated movie about
Yeah,
demons.
nuts. Yeah, that was cool.
So the Chocolate Cartel members are going to force Wonka and Noodle into the vault where they keep all their excess chocolate, so they'll drown to death in chocolate. But before that, Wonka reveals, or gets Slugworth to reveal, that Noodle is Slugworth's long lost niece, because Slugworth's brother Zibbity.
Sure. That sounds like a name I would make up because I forgot somebody's name in this.
Well, he'd had an affair with a commoner woman. Well, I say affair. They were gonna get married and everything. Like he was in love with her. But then he died before they could get married. But then 9 months later, the woman showed up at Slugworth's door with a baby, saying like, "This is your niece. She's sick. Please help her." And Slugworth, who inherited the business because his brother died, leading me to assume that his brother was older, and therefore technically Noodle is in the line of inheritance before him.
They could make a succession of this.
They could make a succession about this.
Yeah, they could do that. They'll probably do that.
But anyway, not wanting that to happen, he dumps the baby down the laundry chute, which is how Scrubbit and Bleacher found her in the first place. And then told her mom that the kid died. So that is Noodle's real identity and her family and everything. But they still force him into the chocolate vault where it starts filling up with more chocolate and they're gonna drown. But right before the Chocolate Cartel members left, Willy Wonka asked them to give the last jar of chocolate to Lofty, the Oompa Loompa, to repay his debt. But the Chocolate Cartel members, being greedy and not believing in little orange men with green hair, eat all the chocolate themselves. And of course, that means they have now stolen from the Oompa Loompas, and according to Oompa law, they must pay it back 1,000-fold. So Lofty breaks in to the vault and takes all of their chocolate to pay back the debt, freeing and saving the lives of Willy Wonka and Noodle in the process. So Willy Wonka and Noodle take the ledger and then go back up and give the ledger to the police, so that all of the cartel members and the chief of police get arrested for all of the big crimes they did. And in the meantime, the other members of the crew have found Noodle's mom, who is still alive and lives in a library. So Willy takes her off to reunite with her family, which is what she's wanted the whole movie.
How does he?
Uh,
What does he say to her?
well, he says that now she'll be in a world of pure
Mm,
imagination. And I'm like,
wow,
actually, this is quite real, Willy Wonka.
that's true.
She is very much going to live with her mother who exists now. So I don't know how well that fits, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, they tried.
Uh, yeah, so Willy gets to open his store, and he also gets rents out a castle to open up his factory, and he gets Lofty to help him. They agree to go into business together, making chocolates. The all the laundromat people go back to doing the things that they love, and Mrs. Scrubbit and Mr. Bleacher get arrested for chocolate poisoning crimes.
Very
Uh,
serious.
yeah, very very serious. Especially if they get charged under Oompa law.
Oh my god.
That's going to be bad for them.
Yeah, what do they have to go to like prison for like 80 million years or something? Because Loompas
Something
are,
like that.
yeah, that's, oh, these Loompas. I mean, listen, just don't steal from them, I guess. But hey, that's still, this seems like something as a punishment that cannot be useful, like to them. No one would ever repay them. You just kill all the Loompas or something. Especially if they're just following you, and especially if they have some sort of Loompa sense that if someone makes a deal about their chocolate, they just know, like, oh, I gotta get that guy now. Because like, did Oompa Loompa bug Willy or something? Like, how does he know about the deal? I think it's like a
I don't know.
connection with the Force that the Oompa Loompas have.
I think Oompa Loompas have an innate chocolate sense
Yeah, I think
that they
that's
just
right.
know when chocolate has been given to them.
Which then you just go into a candy store and just pick up chocolate and be like, this is for the Oompa Loompas, and then just leave. And then they would go get it. But like that's what they're gonna do, because that's what the Oompa Loompas do. It's wonderful. Well, that is the movie.
Yep, that's the whole movie. That was
And
the
like
ending.
there were songs in there too, but mostly that was it. Um and you know, like we said, whimsy, colorful, Timmy Chalamet tapping around and stuff and doing his whole thing. Um Yeah, do you know what else there is in movies sometimes? Does this movie have one? Sure. This movie has a wheel because they push a wheel at one point, I think.
They have a
Because
laundry cart that they use as part of their chocolate selling operation.
I was gonna say that, and then there's also like the giant, because Willy Wonka he's like a chocolatier and also a magician and also kind of an inventor because he invents like a big thing so that the dog can do all their work while they're off doing chocolate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I assume that thing is just lousy with wheels. But we have one as well for this movie Wonka. So would you like me to spin the wheel and we can talk about some things in this movie?
I would love nothing
Let's talk about this wheel. Here we go. I spun it. I spin the wheel.
more.
It landed on, oh, this is one of mine. This is a question. How much is one sovereign worth? I just did want to talk about the sovereign economy here because it is the first song and I'm confused about
Yeah,
it.
the first song is all about his 12 silver sovereigns.
And like, okay, so I want to go through, this is very basic. I'm sure I'm going to get some wrong. He buys a newspaper. I believe that's Silver Sovereign 1.
Yes.
Then a kid shines his shoes against his will. And that's one of the next ones. I don't know if that's the next one, but it's, let's say,
that's number 2, yeah.
okay. Then he buys a pumpkin, which he drops or something. Maybe
He drops a
watermelon.
pumpkin and has to pay for it.
I think that one might cost 3.
That is 3, yep.
Then I think the Shoeshine Kid is back. I don't know if it's immediately or eventually. So
that's
then,
right away. That brings him down to 6.
So then he gets He gets the law for like daydreaming. That's 3. So that's another 3. He's gonna drop his last one, and then he gives his one before that to the poor woman. I can't remember what happens to the one because I'm missing one. But either way,
he's gotta pay 3 for daydreaming. I don't think that there's a third resurgence of the Shoeshine Kid.
Maybe there's something that happens before the newspaper where like
no, it's definitely because I'm thinking of the song lyrics. He's definitely got 10 when the pumpkin happens.
I guess I can just look up lyrics.
Pumpkin brings him down to 7. Shoeshine Kid 6. Daydreaming 3.
Handful of dreams. Okay.
A hat full of dreams. I think you'll find
that's true. Prices
Yeah, I
are
don't know.
extreme.
This
Break my pumpkin, you pay for it. I've got 5, 6, 7, 7, and then the kid takes one. I don't
maybe he
know.
just gives two to the lady.
Maybe something like that. Um, so okay, so and he knows these like silver sovereigns exist because he was from here, or at least from somewhere where these coins seem to be used. It costs as much money in this universe, conceivably, to buy a newspaper as it does to stay in a hotel for a night.
Well, I do think that is meant to be like an outrageously low price because it's a scam.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. And I do like the fact that in this movie, Willy Wonka is dumb. Like he is very trickable. Um, including like later in that scene when Noodle starts talking and then Olivia Colman shuts her up. I think she says she has orphan's disease or something.
Orphan
Uh,
syndrome.
orphan syndrome, yeah. And that's why she, will say all these random things. Um, but yeah, I like this. And this dumbness has nothing to do with one of the other things we'll get to on a wheel, but just in general, this character has no common sense. I think that's fun. Um, oh yeah, and this is the song where he references a rocket. He says, "Here's my destiny. I just need to unlock it. Will I crash and burn or go up like a rocket?" Um, so I guess we're in the 40s at least. But
Yeah, because Werner von Braun has already
mm-hmm,
Werner von Braun, I should say, has already invented rockets and then leveraged that knowledge so he didn't get prosecuted for any of his war crimes.
that's right.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know. It's weird. The silver is a sovereign. Is that a thing? Is that like an old timey money situation?
I think it is an old British currency.
Uh,
I think.
Sovereign silver is a brand of topical healing, so that's not helpful.
If you do silver sovereign coin, then you
Hmm.
do get British silver coins.
Interesting. Okay. Now maybe we could use those to date the movie. I mean, nobody cares, but also I would love to know exactly when this movie takes place. What do you think of that opening number?
I thought that was when it first started convincing me, like, oh, is this movie going to be good? Because it's fun and like the sort of like quick way he like loses all the money, like really like the shoe shine jokes, especially in that one, because he's literally just like standing there and then he looks down and then someone has already shined his shoe and he's like,
Yeah.
I guess I gotta pay this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that joke, I thought that was funny, it was cute. Yeah, so I liked this one as a good like introduction to this version of Willy Wonka, which I think is important because, like you said, he's kind of naive. He's not the
Yeah.
Bugs Bunny trickster that we know him as. He's very idealistic, etc. So I think it's a very good tone setter for the movie.
Yeah, I agree. And I even in like the future movies, like the not future, but the past movies, but the movies that will take place in the
The
future of
future
this movie.
past.
Yeah, exactly. Movie in Wonka Future Past. The idea that he is like smart and like clever, a whole movie takes place in his chocolate factory that he controls and knows all the secrets of. I do think if you threw that character onto the street, he would also get conned a lot and then, be broke again and, almost freeze to like he almost freezes to death. Like that it's pretty grim. But yeah, luckily he doesn't. I do think out of all the songs, this is maybe my least favorite, and I do think the weakest musically. Uh because
I can
this
see
one
that.
I heard this one, I was like, oh, is Timothy Chalamet not like up to it? Like, is this not gonna work for him? Um and I do think he's much better in later songs, but I also think there's just
Yeah.
something about the tune of this that doesn't quite play to his strengths.
I will say, like, I do like him in this movie ultimately, and I think his songs are fine, but it is pretty clear that Timothy Chalamet is not a singer.
Yeah. I think like he's good at I think I would I don't even think I'd be bummed if I saw him do this on Broadway, but I do think he's good at acting in front of a camera and like acting during the songs that are, like that require a lot of acting. Like the middle one, the whatever it's called, Never Had Chocolate Like This. I'm like, okay, we're using Timothy Chalamet in here well. And the other one, the one that's what's it called? The one in the chocolate store as they open it.
Oh, I forget what it. I know the song.
Yeah,
Actually, hold on.
it's
I think
like
I
your
have the track
World
listed
of Your
here.
Own, I believe is what
Yeah,
that
that was
one's
it.
called. Yeah, that one I also think like he is used well. It's this one is just not. I don't know what it is, and maybe if I saw it again, I'd like it. But I think knowing that it's going to be good and knowing that he's going to be good singing most of it, I would feel a little less worried. I think maybe with this one, I was just like, oh, is this going to be the first time we hear him sing and it stinks because they didn't put it in any of the trailers? What do you think of this outfit?
Um, I mean, I think it's evocative of the original outfit while trying to be like his poor boy outfit, where it's all like
Poor boy.
tattered and in rags. Um, which I think more or less works.
Yeah. Now that I mention it, or now that we're talking about outfits, I do love that Chocolate Like This song when he is just showing up in different little costumes
Oh,
that match
that was
wherever
fun.
he is. Like that's great. Um, yeah. Uh, what else? Oh, this movie starts with him going off of singing a song about the weird city, getting off of a boat, and then shacking up with Miss Sloppit or whatever her name is.
Mrs.
Uh,
Scrubbit.
Mrs. Scrubbit, right. Are we doing Sweeney Todd again? Is that what this is? You think that was what they were
I
going for?
I feel like that was a deliberate kind of like
Yeah.
nudge at Mrs. Lovett because it's so close. It can't not be.
Right. And it's Mrs. Lovett, and I spun the wheel again. It's the other thing. It's Master of the House from whatchamacallit from
Yes.
Les Mis.
Monsieur and Mademoiselle Thénardier.
Yeah. It's and there, this bit I don't really care for this part of the movie. Like I enjoy it, but it's the part of the movie that isn't doing chocolate stuff or Willy Wonka fun stuff. It's just kind of other stuff. Uh that being said, they're good in it. Like Olivia Colman and whoever that guy is are solid.
I really liked the guy.
Yeah.
He's got a killer voice for this sort of role.
So his name is Tom Davis. He was T-Bone, one of the prisoners in Paddington 2, but besides that, it seems like he mostly does work in British television and stuff. And I bet he's funny. He seems good.
Yeah, no, I think they were both really funny. As kind of like these, they basically are the Thénardiers. You're right.
Which
Right
one?
down to the like part of Master of the House is him singing about how he has a bunch of fake fees that he
Mm-hmm.
tacks onto his rooms so that they seem reasonable, but actually people pay a lot.
Yeah. It's interesting because I guess it's just interesting because they have a couple of slaves. But like yeah,
Well, Nando, are you saying that indentured servitude is the same thing as slavery? Are you saying that there were Irish slaves in America, and therefore that means that other people who may have been
mm,
referred to as slaves really didn't have it that bad when you think about it?
that's true. I'm saying that, and I'm also saying that Willy Wonka owned slaves. And that's a very incontroversial fact.
That is basically true
Everybody knows it.
in the original source material. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this version, it's like he's not his slave, but I don't know if we can speak for all the rest of the Oompa Loompas that will eventually show up in this factory.
Yeah, we don't
Like,
really know what because we stop before we get to the point where Oompa Loompas besides Lofty are working for him. So we don't know what that arrangement's going to be.
yeah, and Lofty does seem somewhat atypical. Like, he is just, like, he's kind of lazy and not a trickster, even, but, he gets in the predicament he's in because he just takes a nap and the other Oompa Loompas are mad at him. So, like, I don't know if the rest of them would go for a deal where they just get to taste chocolate and they don't even get to do it because he's doing that job. I don't know. I think some chicanery happened. And maybe
Maybe we'll
that's why
find
Willy
out
Wonka's
in
so sad.
Maybe we'll find out in Twonka.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. He probably went to their island with a bunch of chickens and cut their heads off to show them what might happen if they don't, come back with him to do
Mm,
chocolate factory stuff.
there we go. That's
And
it.
that's why. Yeah, now we're getting into some prequel bullshit. What do you think Olivia Colman was better in, this or Secret Invasion?
I
Remember
didn't
that?
watch Secret Invasion. So
No. Well, I
can't
mean,
say.
so then it wouldn't be fair for you to not
Wouldn't
say.
be fair, but Nando, you did watch both of those things, so you have to say, you have to answer the question.
No, she's bad in Secret Invasion. No, she's okay in Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion is very good. Her part of it is stupid, but yeah, I liked her in this. It's interesting because she is part of this crew of like British actors, that show up in stuff, and cool. There's a couple of them in this. Obviously, Sally Hawkins is like a what's his name? Like all the Paul King stuff, all the Paddingtons.
Well, it's funny to consider that like British comedy shows are where Olivia Colman like got her start.
Yes,
Like that's her going back to her roots.
yeah. I bet
Because
she's
like to Americans, she's like mostly known as a dramatic actress.
yeah. I feel like she's probably been on the Mighty Boosh. I don't know this for a fact, but like I wouldn't be surprised if that's how she knows these guys.
I don't know personally. I've never watched The Mighty Boosh, but
Yeah, it's not for me. Ooh, I don't really like it that much, but I respect it. Let's see. But yeah, she was in a lot of these comedies. She also does like 50 movies a year, so it's actually pretty hard to find a specific thing. When was the money? I guess I could just control F. Anyway, yeah. So maybe she was not on that, but she's good. She was in The Iron Lady. She played Carol Thatcher. Is that Margaret Thatcher's mom? Maybe.
I have no idea. I don't know. I never saw that movie either. I do wanna, as long as we're talking about Bleacher and Scrub It, I do gotta bring up them gams again.
Yeah.
That was
good.
a bizarre thing to be in this movie, but it was also very funny.
Yeah, when they started doing the like setup thing, I was like, that is a very weird specific thing to say. And it's almost like, is this trying to like skirt around, like show her your dick or something? And then we find out later thighs specifically are important for this grift they've cooked up. And that's
yeah, no, when he first said it, I was like, what is that supposed to, what is this advice? What is that supposed to tell him? But then the way it actually turned out, where it was like, I don't know, I guess they knew that he had Bavarian lederhosen.
And everybody did in the blank, 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 blank year.
That's what he would wear to show off his legs. I don't know. Whatever the logic is there is insane, but it's insane in a funny way, so I'm good with it.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I mean, he's bad. They're bad. I did think those characters, like I knew they were bad, but eventually I did think they would turn around and there would be like they're okay too. Kind of, I don't even know what you'd call it, like a class solidarity. But no, they go to jail in the end, just like everybody else. Well, we'll get to what happens to the other characters at the end. But speaking of other characters, I spend the wheel again, landed on this one, Oompa Loompa. Let's talk about the man who hates movies so much he will never do one unless there's money involved, then maybe he will.
Now, okay. Here's my thing about Oompa Loompa.
Mm-hmm.
I did think, like, he made me laugh. There were bits of his thing that I did, like, enjoy. I do think he's the element of the movie that works the least for me.
I think that's fair. Elaborate. And keep in mind, if you don't like if you say you don't like it, he will not feed you.
Well, I'm not one of his children, so that's not a deal I have with him.
We're all kind of Hugh Grant's children.
Are we not all children of Hugh Grant?
I think at a certain point, he's a very, very charismatic man. He's involved in some way in all of our conceptions.
Oh no. Oh god, we were it was in the 90s. That was peak Hugh Grant rom-com times.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do think the Storks had to all get signed off on from Hugh Grant. He had to just, yes, okay, this one, sure, because he was just in charge of all of it.
But no, I guess I'm trying to find the right words for this. I think he just seemed the most out of place. Not because it was a silly element, because I mean everything in this movie is silly, but something about, maybe it's because Hugh Grant is having such palpable amounts of not fun. Like, he doesn't feel like he fits with the sort of like the whimsy and lightness of it all. His character is kind of like grumpy and rude in a way that clashes a little with everything else that's going on. And also, um I don't know if I can really quantify exactly exactly what felt off about this character to me.
Well, what you should do is channel your inner DJ and just say the most incendiary thing you can possibly say about this character, and then walk your way
Right.
back from there.
I think he should have been a slave. I think it would have been better if he was
Just
if yeah, Willy Wonka had pressed him into servitude without pay.
yeah, that would have been great if at the end he was like, "Wow, this is quite a castle you've built here." And yeah, stand on that X real quick. Hold on, and then just pulled the lever and then dunked him into a big pit, and all the rest of the Oompa Loompas were there. They had all fallen
Like,
for it over the course of
I
the last
learned a
week.
little thing or two from Bleacher and Scruffit.
Yeah.
I think they had some good ideas.
Yeah, this is my friend who helped me build this, Margaret Thatcher. We love her here. She's been involved in every minute of this movie, apparently. Yeah, like, no, I agree. I don't think he works incredibly well. I do think part of it is just he's the only character that really is like CGI and not like a guy in a funny suit and a wig. And
Yeah,
that
that might be
doesn't
it,
quite work.
too.
But I mean, I don't know. I think it would help if he went in interviews and was like, I loved it. It was fun. I had a good time. And it would just change how out of place he feels in the movie a little bit.
I feel like part of it is also the fact that he doesn't really interact with anyone in the movie besides Willy Wonka.
That's true.
So it makes him feel like his own sort of like discrete element that doesn't fit with everything else in a strange way.
And also, like, all of the chocolate Willy Wonka has and like the world outside of Willy Wonka is a little weird. Like, you can milk a giraffe and get special chocolate, but there aren't a like secret race of little orange guys. Like, if there weren't Oompa Loompas in this movie, it would seem weird if they showed up. Like, it feels very obviously from the source material, and it's really the only thing that feels like that. Where you're like,
yeah, I think that's true.
Also, his like attitude, I like his attitude as this like, nah, fuck him, do whatever you want, Willy Wonka. But I do think his character has this weird, like, because he is this rogue guy who's repaying his chocolate debt, it almost does feel weird that he is repaying his debt, but he's also like, Willy Wonka, go follow your heart. I kind of wish he was like, I don't know how you would do this, but have him be like a Great Gazoo character who is just Willy Wonka's secret helper that no one can see but him. But he's cool with the whole thing. And he's like, not like his conscience, like a Jiminy Cricket figure, but almost the anti-Jiminy Cricket, who's like, do mayhem, cut that chicken's head off, Willy Wonka. And everybody's like,
be the devil on Willy Wonka's shoulder.
Yeah, the way that he explains him to Loopy, not Loopy, Noodle. He's like, yeah, the way he explains her to Noodle, he's like, my little orange man that steals the chocolate at night. Noodle does not take that seriously enough.
Noodle does not think that's real.
She both doesn't think it's real, but she's also like, I think this guy hallucinates guys. Like, maybe I shouldn't pin all my hopes on him because he might not have it all together. But I kind of almost wish there was like an element of that where like, no, just because the Oompa Loompa didn't want anybody but Willy Wonka to see him, every time Willy Wonka did a thing, he'd be like, there he is. And then you'd turn around and he'd be gone. And everybody'd be like, what are you talking about? He'd be like, see, they just keep disappearing. Just because like I said, like they, as this weird magical-ish element, they don't fit in as well as everything else. But it's just, I think it's kind of clever that they did this to get over the fact that who do you hire for this role otherwise besides some random older British character actor kind of guy now, like as this like Hugh Grant. You can tell Hugh Grant not to take the part, but we gave him money, so he's gonna do it. But but yeah, because I think if they tried to do anything else, anything even slightly more like cohesive or like thought through, it would seem insensitive. But with this, it's
That's the
just like
thing.
Hugh
Is
Grant showed
like
up on set and started doing Oompa Loompa stuff. So here we go.
this feels like the opposite of how these things usually go.
Mm-hmm.
With like more modern like castings or retellings of things, which is to say, you absolutely cannot cast a non-white person as an Oompa Loompa. You
Yeah.
simply cannot do it.
Right? So
Like,
interesting.
it would be more racist to cast a non-white person than it would be to cast a white person.
It's fascinating. I think, I mean, yeah, and also I think part of what they did, so what's kind of interesting about this, well, I guess two things. One, he doesn't do any chocolate help. He mostly is a hindrance. So like
Mm-hmm.
in that sense, he can't be anywhere near enslaved. I do think it's smart to make him have taken the chocolate because the Oompa Loompa was just napping. So like nobody's really wrong in that scenario, but also I do think that like the way that they dressed him specifically is like, listen, we get it. The whole idea with the Oompa Loompas, it's not good. But we thought it would be funny if we put Hugh Grant's face on this little guy's body and made him do a silly dance. So is that enough for everybody? And it does feel like everybody was like, I guess that is enough.
What if they were wearing what the Oompa Loompas were wearing in their homeland originally, which is like fucking grass skirts, full on racist shit?
Nope, Swiss Guard. They all dress like Swiss Guards, or they dress like little plastic men in rock star outfits and shit in the weird one that I hate. But yeah, I mean, like it's weird. I don't know who played. I mean, I guess a lot of people played the Oompa Loompas in the first one. Then we had Deep Roy
In the
play.
first one, I think they mostly hired like actual dwarves.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I just mean like there were It was a whole bunch of actors, and then when they did the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, they got one guy to just do every Oompa Loompa, and then now they just hired one guy to be one Oompa Loompa. So we're
Well, I mean, the ones in like the brief shots of other Oompa Loompas, those aren't Hugh Grant. So
that's
they got
true. There are other
people
actors
to
in
do
there.
Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, I saw them in the cast list, and they're people that are like British comedians, like everybody in this thing, except for Keegan Michael Key. But yeah, they are in there. Yeah, I don't know. The Oompa Loompa thing is interesting. Also, they've got like little planes and stuff. It's all over the place, the Oompa Loompas. They have Swiss Guards. They live in the jungle. They have all kinds of silly technology. They do dances, and they look and sound like Hugh Grant. Whatever.
Well, again, I think that's because the Oompa Loompas were colonized by the British.
Right. I guess
like
so.
They actually have their own Oompa Loompa language, but when they speak English, they do it with a British accent because of the legacy of colonialism.
That's fair. And yeah, I am actually pretty happy that this movie didn't even kind of try to get into any of that. Like, it would have been bad if they did that.
There is simply no way you can do the Oompa Loompa stuff that's not just like wildly insensitive.
However,
the only winning move is not to play.
I will say, I would like them to make a full Oompa Loompa movie just to force Hugh Grant to make more Oompa Loompa movies and be the only person on the Oompa Loompa press tour. That would be funny to me. I don't think that movie would be any good, but I would like to see him do it.
Oompa Loompa one-man show. It's nothing but Hugh Grant doing Oompa Loompa shit.
Right, it's just the empty factory. Willy is gone that day, and just 50 Oompa Loompas. They all look like Hugh Grant now instead, and being different actors. Just, they get in a fight or do some. It's like Minions. They do Minion stuff. I don't know. I spun the wheel. Speaking of Minions, I spun the wheel again. Landed on one of yours, Diggins. Illiteracy. I don't think the Minions are literate. I don't know. Maybe they are. I've never seen a Minions movie.
I don't know. They don't know how to talk. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't know how to read.
Yeah.
But no, I left this out of the summary because it's never really like super important, but it is a bizarrely persistent plot point in this movie that Willy Wonka is illiterate.
Yeah. And like illiterate, like never seen a letter before.
Yeah, like doesn't even recognize the letter A.
Yeah.
And that's why he gets tricked into signing the contract, is because he can't read it. He doesn't know how.
It's pretty funny.
Do you remember his excuse for why he doesn't know how to read?
Well, it's because instead of studying reading, he studied chocolate or something like that, right?
Yeah, his education was like very specifically focused on chocolate or something
Yeah.
like that.
While you were doing math in school, he was studying the blade and
He was studying the bean.
the bean. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know what this was. Was it? I mean, this can't be a book thing, right?
No, I mean, first of all, we don't know about his past, really.
Well, he is like
Um,
in the books. He is like you go like he can read though. You're never like. There's no way to read the original books and be like, this character actually never picks up a piece of paper and reads it. Huh.
oh, I can actually prove that he can read based on the books,
Oh, because he
which
has a
is,
contract, right?
well, that, and also, but the lawyers could have written that up for him. The
That's
Oompa
true.
lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
Oompa law is very serious, as we've said. But in the Great Glass Elevator, when they go up to Hotel USA,
Oh.
the space station that they go up to, and see the Vernicious Canids, the evil aliens,
Mm.
um, the Vernicious Canids start spelling "Get Out" with their shape-shifting bodies,
Oh
or
my
something
god.
like that. Um, and Willy Wonka realizes that they're spelling something like that, and is like, "Uh-oh, that's bad. Let's get out of here."
Are we sure that's what happened? And Willy Wonka just didn't see aliens with shape shifting bodies and say, "Oh, that's bad. Let's get out of here." And
I
everyone
mean,
was like, "Willy, because you read that?" And he's like, "Read what? They're just aliens."
I mean, it's
Much like,
certainly possible, but I do recall it's been a while since I read this book, mind you.
mm-hmm.
As one of the 17 people on Earth who's read Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator.
Mm.
Um, but I do recall him going on a lengthy like explanation of what they were doing and why afterwards. Which is
Yeah.
most of what that book is something crazy happens and then Willy Wonka explains how and why it happened.
Tell, don't show. Good. That's good out. That's good books. I'm surprised they haven't made it into a movie yet.
It's a really weird book.
Yeah. I wonder if there was ever a play for that. Do you think I've never heard about it, and it probably has something to do with how Willy Wonka kind of wasn't a hit until it played on TV and stuff. But like I bet if it was a hit, they would have tried with Gene Wilder.
Possibly.
But yeah, this Willy Wonka is illiterate, but then he's not illiterate because he can read the book and he's like, your mom's name is whatever. So that's
This
nice.
Dorothy Smith.
Yeah. It's good for him.
Yeah, because while by day they've been selling chocolates, by night Noodle's been teaching him how to read.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess he just needed a little bit of a jump start and then he just got it.
I mean, he's pretty clever when he's not dumb. Like he's like when he's not like, accidentally being tricked out of all his money and freedom. He's pretty clever, so I figure he could figure it out. But
did you though on your Wonka bingo card as you went into the movie? Did you have Willy Wonka is illiterate on there? Because
no, I did not. I usually don't have that on my bingo card for movies.
That the character's illiterate.
That the character's illiterate. We'll see about Night Swim. I might start putting it on my bingo cards, but definitely not for this. It's interesting too, like how many adults, because there's plenty of illiterate adults in the world. Is this like the only one you can think of in a movie where the movie's not about that? Because like they've made movies about that, but this is definitely not what that is.
I mean, I feel like there's movies about people in like extremely destitute circumstances or in like third world countries who might be functionally illiterate or otherwise have poor education, and it's not about specifically the illiteracy but is about the destitute circumstances.
Yeah, and he is very destitute when you read it in the plot summary and stuff. They really go out of their way to talk about how
they mention now he's young and poor.
Yeah.
Although, okay, so we see the flashback of him with his mom, Sally Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what, 7, 8 in that flashback? Like,
yeah, something like that.
He's an older child.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been living on this houseboat with his mom. His mom, in those 7 or 8 years, was never like, I should teach this kid how to read.
Yeah. Especially if you're going to write him a letter on the chocolate bar from you.
That's a good
He's
point.
going to
She
need those
wrote
words
a
to
letter
read it.
for her illiterate son.
Yeah.
She had to have known he can't read.
Maybe it just always happened that every time it was about to read, like the boat shook or something, and he never actually started to read the book, and she just assumed he could read. And it does seem like Wonka plays along. Like, you'd never find out if he didn't like sign the contract and stuff.
He does pretend to know how to read for reasons that are beyond me, even in situations where the only people around are himself and people who know he can't read.
Yeah. Listen, I get it. You know, there's a social thing about being able to read and making chocolate and stuff, and you kind of figure he could do it, but he can't. I don't know. I do think I think there's a big difference. I don't know a ton about adult literacy. I would be curious if in the community it's like there's got to be a difference between I am illiterate versus I have never seen and do not recognize the letter A. It's like I don't even kind of know that's a letter. That seems like kind of a leap.
Well,
but
that'd be like you and I looking at like Russian in the Cyrillic alphabet. I'd just be like, I don't even fucking know what I'm looking at here. I don't even know where to begin.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, it's very interesting. So cool that they did it in the movie.
Yeah, we need more illiteracy representation in media.
You know, it used to be 0 and now it's 1. So look at that. Speaking of things that used to be 0 in movies and now it's 1, this one's quite a few. I mean, it's 1, but a bunch of times. Spun the Wheel landed on, I think it's one of yours, lots of giraffes. Has a lot of giraffes in this movie. It's 1, but that's more than you'd expect.
The giraffe quotient of this movie, the amount of screen time for giraffes, is, again, next to the illiteracy, one of my most unexpected things about this movie.
You almost would expect, like, Paul King's brother, Mark King, is a giraffe wrangler or something. And he was trying to figure out a way to Sean Gunn him into this, just like, get those giraffes on set every movie we can. Paddington's going to run into a lot of them in Peru, or he would have if Paul King was doing it.
Maybe his brother runs that business from Nope, except instead of a horse ranch, it's a giraffe ranch.
Oh, yeah. That would make sense.
Gotta get into business.
It's probably...
Even though this is very clearly a CGI giraffe.
Yeah, I didn't mind the CGI giraffe, because giraffes look weird in real life, too. They are the uncanny valley of animals.
I don't know giraffes well enough to look at a CGI giraffe and be like, well, that's not what that's supposed to look like.
Yeah. Everything I find out about them, it's like, well, that can't be true. They don't fight with their necks, though. And then it's like, no, they do. They do. Swing their necks to each other like idiots.
Surely they don't just plop their kids out 5 feet onto the ground. Yeah. It's like, no, they do that.
They do. That should have happened in this movie, just Mr. Bean's like shooing that giraffe away and then just plop big giraffe kids.
I mean, the giraffe must be a recent mother.
That's
if it can
true.
Be milked.
Yeah, it can be milked. What if the giraffe was lucky for them? The giraffe was pregnant at the zoo.
I was thinking that when they started milking it, I was like, man, it's lucky for them that this giraffe apparently just had a baby.
Yeah. Is this the first time you've ever seen a giraffe milked?
I'm racking my brain. I'm thinking about it. I'm pretty sure I've never seen a giraffe get milked before this. But also, I mean, to be fair, it's not like they give us a close-up on them teats.
No, they don't Last Jedi it, which is maybe a mistake on their part if they really want to get the sickos
of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Timothée Chalamet should have squeezed a giraffe nipple and then, while staring Noodle in the face, just downed a swig of giraffe milk.
How are we 2 weeks into a row where a character milks a thing in a movie? We watched the fucking stupid Christmas movie where they milk a cow in it. What is going on?
I can't wait to find out what they milk in Aquaman.
Better be Topo, the whatever his name is, the octopus friend octopus. Better not be Patrick
I want it
Wilson.
To be that big walrus man who's his captain of the guards or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Or it could be that crab that was Gimli in the Lord of the Rings. I think that crab dies in the last movie.
I don't remember.
Those movies are bad. Oh, they're good. Yeah, the giraffe thing was fun. I like the giraffe. I don't know why. It's funny that they show up with that big box. and they're there to capture the giraffe. It'd be funny if they showed up and I'm like, we're here for the giraffe, Mr. Bean. He's like, oh, we killed the giraffe before. We have a gun. We used the gun. We didn't want anybody to get hurt. I know it's a bummer, but you guys probably shouldn't just let your giraffe do whatever it wants.
A giraffe is like an inherently funny animal, but it's not an overplayed inherently funny animal.
That's true.
It's like, it's not like monkeys, like monkeys are funny, but also like that's everyone's first go-to. It was like, oh, we need some kind of funny mammal to throw in here. It's a monkey.
Yeah.
A giraffe is the distinguished gentleman's funny mammal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of it, the trouble with the giraffe is like you just can't put a giraffe in most rooms. But that's a church with high ceilings and stuff, that's a good place for a giraffe.
There we go. See, do you think that's why it's a cathedral in the script, so that they could justify having a giraffe running loose later?
I could be convinced that they did that the giraffe came before the whole priest thing. The priest thing's pretty incidental in general.
It's really not important at all. Not even the 500 chocoholic monks really come up too much.
Even before we're about to do chocoholic monk stuff, Mr. Bean goes to the chocoholic monks and is like, by the way, guys, let's just act like regular monks and don't be around. Okay? Got an important date today. Yeah, that was cute, though. I liked that.
I liked how they did Gregorian chanting for talking.
Yeah, stuff like that, man. It's always just good. Other stuff about the giraffe is, I don't know. The giraffe is weird. They almost kill the giraffe by accident. They have to tell the giraffe to duck, otherwise it gets bad.
That's true. I don't think giraffes really understand the concept of being in cars, so
no.
I feel like it probably had difficulty with that.
It's probably also pretty hard for a giraffe to duck. It doesn't have shoulders. It has to like swing its head, I assume. I mean, I guess it has shoulders, but it wouldn't duck like a person ducks. But
I wish they'd shown its big, freaky, long giraffe tongue, like snooping around Mr. Bean's face.
Yeah, giving him a big old lick right at the end of the movie. I mean,
you know how giraffes got freaky ass tongues, right?
I do know they got big weird tongues. Yeah, I would assume, just based off of, if I'd never seen Willy Wonka before, like none of the other movies, I would assume he rides a giraffe through most of the movie based on how much giraffe stuff is in this.
Yeah, I'd be like, I don't know. I guess in the first one they go to the giraffe room in the factory.
Yeah,
where they milk all the giraffes.
Yeah. And they should. I mean,
they should have been in the movie. You're right.
Speaking of giraffes, I spun the wheel again. Lands it on one of mine. Willy Wonka has one solution for every problem. It's to drug people by handing them a piece of chocolate. It's pretty funny how many times a character just goes, ooh, chocolate, and then eats it and then hallucinates or something.
Yeah, I gotta say, the tone of this movie would be very different if every time they were like, we've got to break into the zoo. And Willy Wonka was like, I've got just the solution. And then he pulls up a pill bottle.
Yeah.
He's like, roofies.
Yeah. Well, it is.
Like, uh-oh, Willy, no.
And it is one of those movies where, like, if I was a kid and I watched this movie and then I found out about drugs, I'd be, oh, I see. This is drugs. And this is baking soda in the cocaine. Right. That's how they made this. I do think some of the drugs are pretty weird, or the way he drugs people, right? So you get the party in one night thing, which is fun. I do think the one that he gives the man who proposes to his wife is just ecstasy or something, right? Like Molly. It's one of those drugs. It makes you feel, or cocaine, I guess, makes him feel really confident. That
cocaine
guy
would make him energetic, which he's not. He doesn't seem like manic. He's just confident, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know what drug does that. I guess it could also be he could also give him like weed or something, and then he'd like chill out and get so out of his own way. But that's not quite what he does either. He does like stand up. He goes, "Yeah, I'm cool now." Maybe just gives him caffeine. I don't know.
He gives him testosterone, so he'll stop being such a beta.
Stop being yeah. He does. Giraffes have high testosterone in their breast
milk.
Not
a lot of people know this. Giraffe milk is just filled with testosterone, and you're like, wouldn't it be filled with estrogen because milk comes from female giraffes? And you'd be like, well, that's just how manly giraffes are. Even the women filled with testosterone.
That's why we love them so much. That's why they're in all the cookies and all the toys and stuff, is because the men have to learn. Yeah, we got to appreciate the giraffe. And like, okay, so the giraffe one, okay, so that's the first one. The second one he does in that song is a like toffee or something that makes you do a musical, basically.
Yeah, makes you in a Broadway musical. Which I'm like, aren't they in like England? Why doesn't he say West End?
Also, oh, that's a good point. Yeah, was Broadway even invented back then?
Yeah, Broadway existed back then.
Oh, okay.
Assuming it's the
Yeah, assuming
50s
it's
or
the 40s or
40s,
50s. Yeah.
then yeah, Broadway existed. Broadway had existed for like a couple decades by then.
And then my other question with this, because I do think I like this and I liked all the numbers associated with the Broadway show thing. Does that mean the guy who proposed to his wife just danced in real life spontaneously?
Yep.
Because I just assumed this was a musical number. We didn't have to explain why anybody was dancing, but apparently we did. Also, that actor is the only person not the only, but was one of the first people I recognized is as a guy who has been on Taskmaster. And the woman that he kisses is also a comedian that's been on Taskmaster as well. So both
there
of
you
them.
go.
Yeah, he's famous.
Now all your taskmastering has been paying off.
He's famous for one thing. Do you want to take a guess at what his name is? Phil Wang is the comedian. Do you want to take a guess at the thing that he's most known for on Taskmaster specifically?
Swallowing an egg whole.
No, that would be crazy. Something like that would happen. Actually, they've eaten some weird stuff. Not like weird stuff like Fear Factor. Like here's an ox's penis, but it would be like do something crazy with this head of lettuce, and one of them would just eat the whole thing. But no, this guy, and this is very early in the show too, because the way Taskmaster works. Have you ever watched it?
Nope.
So they do all these tasks over the course of some amount of time that they have to master for the Taskmaster. And while they're doing those tasks,
the Marvel
they're wearing.
Villain?
It could be. Maybe if they get their shit together and they get Greg Davies, he could be a better Taskmaster potentially than what they did in the movie. He's kind of got the vibe of the Taskmaster from the movies, or from the comics, where he thinks he's a cool guy and everyone loves him. But they all, when they do these tasks, it's not to trick you into thinking it's all on the same day, because it's not, and we know it's not. But they always wear the same outfit, and everybody picks a Taskmaster outfit that's either like their clothes or a jumpsuit, or like dressing like a sailor or something. It's gotten more extreme as time has gone on. He's one of the first exciting ones because he wore that kind of yellow outfit that Bruce Lee wears in Enter the Dragon, or whichever one that is. Except he wore it either, I don't know, without underwear or not nearly enough for the whole season, because like I said, these are all filmed, and then they go back to the studio and watch them, and that's the show, is them going over the tasks for the whole season. This dude's junk is flapping everywhere. It is so distracting. At one point, I forget the phrase specifically that Greg uses to describe it, and I think this was kind of late in the game too. But at one point, there's just a pretty aggressive flop, and he says sometimes it doesn't matter what's on the clock, the pendulum draws your eye. And that's all I could think when I see that man.
So during this song, all you could think about was this guy's monster dong.
Monster's not the right word for it, but yeah, this guy's dong.
Oh no,
this guy's existent dong. I see, that's the thing. I didn't pay that much attention to it, but I bet if you wanted to, you could. It was a lot.
You could break out the measuring tape if you really wanted.
Absolutely. All right, so then we have the one that grows your hair. That one is some sort of hairy Claire, whatever. I remember they say.
Oh yeah, in the song. For a second, I thought you were talking about the poison, but no, he gives them eclair to fix their male pattern baldness.
That's right.
If only that was a thing that existed in real life. Some of us could use it.
I mean, it's the kind of thing where you come into work and everybody would be like, somebody who had some chocolate, and then it would be a whole stigma. Be like, but I guess it would be a little different, I guess, because then you could get it cut and you could ease your way into it. Like they all start going from no hair to humongous, long luscious locks, but you can make it work. They do feed it to a cat. Now, I don't know a lot about cats, but I'm pretty sure cats can't eat chocolate. I'm pretty sure it's one of those things, but
first of all, you don't know a lot about cats?
So I know this for a fact about dogs. I'm pretty sure this is true about cats, but I don't know it for a fact that they can't eat chocolate. I've definitely
in short, no. is
No,
what
they
Google's
can, or
telling
no, they
me.
cannot eat chocolate.
No, they cannot eat chocolate.
Okay, that makes sense. There's a lot of stuff. Cats, like, they just eat whatever they want, but also they just like bite the electrical wires. See, how do you guys survive in the wild? So many things are toxic to cats, and they'll just eat all of it. Weird. You know, it's a smart animal. It's a giraffe. Actually, everybody should have one of those.
No one's ever heard about a giraffe eating electrical wire.
Now, yeah, that's pretty much the end of the song. Oh, I do want to say we haven't really talked about hover chalk. Insane as a thing. Like,
I mean, the concept of you eat some chocolate, you hover around for a little bit, and then come back down to earth is like whimsical and cool. It's like fizzy lifting drink.
yeah.
The mechanics of how it works, which I believe I've pointed out already, but just to reiterate, are that there is a fly larva in the hover chalk.
Yep.
And it gestates and is birthed when you eat the chocolate, and then generates such powerful lifting force that it causes you to float, is somehow not dissolved by your stomach acid and will harmlessly leave out of your butthole after about 20 minutes.
And the chocolate itself can hover before it is eaten. And Willy Wonka can manipulate it with his mind or something.
I think he's just trained these hoverflies.
Yeah, that seems right. It's pretty weird that they have this. I mean, it's cool. I like it. It becomes a like little plot device later, and it's like, guys, you guys had the hover chocolate last time. Do you not recognize it again? If you didn't have it.
This was delayed release hover chocolate. It's different.
These people are not suspicious enough of this man's chocolate. They're rich types who don't really think super critically, but
or maybe it's that they knew something must be up, but Willy Wonka chocolate tastes so good
that
true. Like when you have a whole jar full, you can't just not eat it.
That's a good point.
It's impossible.
By the way, speaking of things that are impossible, have you seen the Willy Wonka chocolate at the stores by you?
Not recently. I remember when Wonka bars were a thing when we were kids.
Yeah, but they're in this movie, so you'd have to assume they'd remember to make chocolate bars so you could buy them in real life, you know? Or did they? They forgot. They didn't do any. There's no cross-promotion chocolates.
Nando, they were far too busy making the purple IHOP pancakes to worry about making new Wonka bars.
Yeah. These Wonka bars are going to come out in like 6 months, like the fucking Ant-Man book. I don't understand what's happening. Like, this is one of the easiest ones of these. And
I feel like
still forgot.
I feel like there's some sort of complicated legal situation with Wonka bars right now.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's right. I forget what it is, but I know what you're talking about because, like, it's owned by Cadbury or something, or, like, there's some weird thing, but then the person who wrote the book kind of owns it, and they all fight over it. It's like Spider-Man. They got to figure that out in court in, like, 20 years. But it's interesting because the first movie was made to sell candy, right? Like, they pretty much invented the first Willy Wonka movie so that they could cross-promote it with a chocolate bar. And then they made this movie, and it's good, and they don't have chocolate bars to sell.
I mean, it was invented in the book first. Like,
I guess
Willy Wonka was completely made up and when Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was written. But they, in conjunction with the original movie, some like a company like worked with the producers to make Wonka bars that would be released as like a promotional thing with the movie, and like would then go on to be a regular product. But I think it actually didn't work out.
Probably
because the Wonka bars we think of are Nestle Wonka bars.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is. It is Nestle. Okay. Yeah. And they're okay. They're not anything special. It's interesting how like fancy chocolate is these days. You can go to a grocery store and get a fucking weird chocolate bar. Like,
oh wait, okay, no, sorry, I'm tracking the status of the Wonka brand as pertains to actual candy.
Oh.
In 2018, the branding and production rights were sold to the Ferrero Group.
Oh.
Who are these people?
The Ferrero Rocher people? I would assume.
Are they? I mean, I would think.
They gotta be, yeah. Unless there's another chocolate Ferrero company running around.
Let's see.
In fact, it
yeah, it is
probably
the
owns
Ferrero
like a billion
Rocher
things.
people. It is Ferrero Rocher.
Okay.
They do a bunch of other stuff too, but
Yeah.
that is what they do.
So these guys currently own Wonka chocolate?
Currently own the rights to produce Wonka chocolate and candy. They don't own the rights to like the Wonka name in any other context.
So why didn't they make it? Like, is this not valuable to them?
I guess not.
They gotta fucking get it together. They had a week at least. How long does it take to change the branding from Ferrero Rocher to Wonka? Just, we'll take the minimum amount of effort. That's what you usually get.
I remember Wonka bars being super good. I would love it if Wonka bars existed again.
I remember when the Johnny Depp movie came out and they really did go over like everywhere they were, you couldn't throw a stick without hitting one. I wonder, yeah, because I guess they do make chocolate bars. And like, I've seen these before now that I think about it, like at the store. I'm probably going to try one next time I do. Although I don't really like Ferrero Rocher because I don't like hazelnut, but I bet they have something that's closer to like a plain chocolate bar without the hazelnut in it. They did always look really weird as candies. Like when I would see like my grandpa eating them, I'd be like, what the fuck is that? Little, silver cupcake of a chocolate. It didn't make very much sense. But they are quite popular. Interesting. Apparently they were created in 1982. Feels like they'd be older than that, but they're not. Good for them. What else? Those are all the chocolates we see in the movie pretty much, I think. Are there any others?
Those are all the ones in that song.
It's that, the hover one, and the night out chocolate. It makes you confess your love and stuff.
There's the one chocolate that the giraffe loves, but there's nothing special about it other than giraffes like it.
Yeah. I do like that they bribe the chief of police with chocolate and then he becomes a big giant man. Can't get out of the car. That's fun.
Oh, the progressive fat suits that Keegan-Michael Key is wearing.
Yeah, that was cute. All right, I spun the wheel again. Landed on one of mine, I think. It must be. I don't think it was one of yours. The hair thing. I'm talking about that scene where the hair gets poisoned and stuff.
With the Yeti sweat?
Yeah. Just use poison next time, right? Like...
Yeah, man, if a bunch of people died eating his chocolate, I think that would have been a much worse problem for him, legally speaking.
And it's not like you guys don't have guns and stuff. You have poison, I'm sure. But also, when that scene started and that started happening, I kind of expected Willy to like spin it and be like, you have cool pink hair. And everyone would be like, I do. And that kind of feels more, I guess, Paddington-y to me, of like, this guy just cannot be stopped. He's this weird, infectious dude who's ruining the town for the rich guys. But yeah, I think I'd probably lose it when it turns your skin green. That guy's fucked. Everybody else is like, cut your hair, you'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll shave right off. Even the little girl with the mustache, I'm sure that'll,
Yeah, people shave mustaches all the time.
Yeah.
It'd be a good thing for her to learn, new skill, probably not incredibly important. Or maybe she'd be into it. Maybe it'd become a fashion thing.
Also, I have to assume it's temporary, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't see people with wild, crazy Yeti hair in the other parts of the movie.
No. And I'd have to assume that as well, which is nice. Because if it was capitalism, they'd be like, well, no, because I guess it has to be temporary. Yeah. Because otherwise it would have, you'd have to have one every day and Willy Wonka would start charging you for it and it'd be a whole racket. But maybe you just want to have hair for one day. Would you have hair for one day? Big white, like, Maximilian Pegasus, luscious locks, go out and then have it and then be gone the next day? Or would you be like, this isn't worth the trouble of explaining this to people?
I mean, maybe just to remember what it's like.
Hmm.
It's been so long.
It'd be good for disguises if you wanted to do a disguise.
That's true. I mean, do you think that Willy Wonka managed to keep the store afloat by selling to criminals?
I mean, I was going to say the drag business would love this. This would put the wig industry in, the toilet.
Oh yeah, wigs, hair plugs, all that, toupees, all of it.
Actually, that's a version of this movie, and I did like this movie, so I'm not trying to say other things this movie could do, but it would be funny if, like, as Willie started doing things, like, the people liked it, but every business that he was destroying all banded together to kill him, and, like, this is where the wig company's magnate, who, like, has a big giant wig, went to the chocolate guys and was like, how do we kill this man? Because
his instead of the chocolate cartel, the villains would be the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, exactly. It would just be all the capitalists are, being destroyed by this weird little guy who has magic chocolate that does things that no one else knows about. But yeah, it's pretty cool. What else? I really like that song. It's very catchy. The one that he sings, the World of Your Own or whatever. Like, I do think the big chocolate musical number with the guy from Taskmaster is, probably more fun, and that does get played a couple of times during this movie. But, like, I don't know, I thought some of this music was pretty good.
What'd you think of, since we kind of skipped over, what'd you think of the villain song?
I liked it enough. I think I think I liked it. I didn't have as strong feelings about it. You know what? It was good. I don't know. What'd you think of it?
I mean, like, musically as a song, it was like, it was all right. Like, it was a good enough song, but I feel like the choreography and, like, the bits going on during it really elevated it.
Yeah.
Like, the way, like, the minions and the three chocolate cartel members are, like, really getting into it. And sort of, like, slinking around trying to corrupt the police chief while they're singing. I think that really made it a lot more fun.
I'm trying to remember, what was that song called? What was
I have the track list right here. Sweet Tooth.
Oh, right. Do you have a sweet tooth? Right, yeah. That felt very like a song you'd hear on Broadway. Like, all of these did. Who did the music for this, by the way? I feel like
I don't know. Jody Talbot and Neil Hannon.
Let's see, Jody Talbot. I can't have spelled that correctly. Yeah, I didn't spell it correctly. Okay, Jody Talbot
Sorry, Joby Talbot. That's my mistake.
Oh.
It's Joby.
Joby.
In my defense, that can't possibly be a name.
Apparently it is. It's a Willy Wonka name, if you ask me. Looks like he did his television scoring. Did some stuff for the Queen's Golden Jubilee.
Wow.
NBC Orchestra of Wales, or BBC, Orchestra of Wales. Like, a lot of that stuff. I want to find, like, has he never done a play? Screen scoring arrangements.
Well, Joby Talbot did the musical score. It looks like Neil Hannon did original songs. So Neil Hannon might have been more the person who did the, like, songs.
That makes sense. So what's this guy's deal? Let's see. Singer songwriter. Okay. It's a good start. He did some Doctor Who stuff. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Did that have music? I guess so. The
books didn't, but adaptations probably did.
This guy loves it.
Oh, he performed the dolphin song in the movie.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I forgot about that. Yeah, this is interesting because these are not like. Do you think these guys are going to be like Lin-Manuel Miranda in like 10 years, where it'll be like, Jesus Christ, I'm so tired of Hannon and Joby and stuff. Can we get one more person? And then they're not going to do a musical, and we're going to be like, oh my God, where'd Hannon and Joby go? Someone,
I was gonna say,
please.
yeah, then the origin of the Oompa Loompa comes out,
Yeah.
where you have all of the Willy Wonka references, and the songs are generic pop songs, and you're like, damn, they couldn't have gotten Hannon and Talbot for
Hmm.
this. Come on, guys.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like the musical, like there was other music, right? The Oompa Loompa thing I think was fine. Like that one also kind of didn't fit in. The
I
song with
mean, that one.
Will,
Well, the thing about that one is it's just the old song with new
yeah.
words.
The song that they sing with the giraffe is fine. It was nice enough.
Yeah, it's cute.
Um, but yeah, I do think like those two songs, the World of Your Own and Another Kind of Chocolate or whatever it's called, are good. And like, and you could see them again. You could see them, and I could see that all playing out on stage at and in Broadway.
Do you think they'll do a Broadway musical of Wonka?
So like they've done a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory musical, and it's
Yeah,
bad.
but it's not very good, but it's also just the 1971 movie.
Right. And I'm wondering if like the existence of that is kind of like the Spider-Man musical, where it kind of broke the brand so much on Broadway that it's undoable. But I feel like it's gotta be worth it to try. Cause I think if they made something like this, they could make so much money on just selling fucking chocolate at the show. Like everybody would go with their kids. It'd be a blast. They should make this.
Also, to be fair, like if there was suddenly a musical Spider-Man movie where they wrote songs that sound like they could be on Broadway, and it was really good and did well financially, that might convince them to do another Spider-Man musical.
That's true. And I guess I think too Broadway right now is it a little bit of like a lull where you're like there's room for a new hit. I don't think Disney has anything that's really crushing it. Like not that this would be done
wait
by
till
Disney.
the stage version of Wish comes out.
Well, right, and there's like they're really running out of those too. Like they did Beauty and the Beast already, they did Aladdin. Like they're gonna have to start doing Pocahontas or Hunchback of Notre Dame or
They already
Hercules.
tried Hunchback, didn't work.
Right, and the same with Hercules. That was also just at the paper mill, and I guess it's not immediately going. I've heard it's okay.
Yeah, that was this year. I was like, oh, that's coming out soon, but I was like, oh wait, no, that was last year that was coming out soon. It happened.
Yeah, there was a point where I was thinking about going to see it, and then I looked at reviews, and they weren't positive enough for me to drive all the way up. But yeah, like I mean, I think I think we'll maybe get Tangled at some point. But there's not as many. We already
got Frozen, and it's fine.
Exactly. And like I think Moana you can't do.
That'd be hard.
Yeah, staging that would be tricky. And then is there anything else? I think that's most of them.
The Great Mouse Detective.
Oh, Mulan. I think they should do Mulan.
That's true. The new Mulan, you mean, right?
That's right. The one with witches or something. Yeah. Yeah. The one nobody liked. I do think. I mean, I think they're fucking the thing that they should make. And Bob Iger or whichever one of you Bobs is in charge now, if you're listening, make an Emperor's New Groove stage musical. It'll be so much fun. The llama can be a big puppet or something. And the music is all Wayne Newton Broadway fucking jams like in that movie because it's such a fun movie, so silly. The set design would be so much fun. The older woman we get for Yzma, whoever that is, would be some sort of absolute like champ.
I mean, Eartha Kitt was a stage performer, so you just get someone like her now.
Yeah, this would be the best role, and the Kronk would be really fun. And it would just, they just don't want money, I guess. Said they want to do Frozen, so hey, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that famously non-money making property, Frozen.
That's true. I could go broke on Frozen. Hopefully they try to make the Frozen 2 musical. And then every night it's an improvised musical where you don't know how it's going to end because they haven't finished writing the musical yet when it starts. It'd be pretty cool.
I'm pretty sure they try pretty hard to pretend Frozen 2 doesn't exist.
That's true. I will say, like looking at this movie too, looking at because I'm on the IMDb page, there is stuff to buy if you wanted to sell things like umbrellas that say Wonka on them. Like I could just see all this shit in the lobby. The little hat, they got to get it together. There's 3 things on the wheel. Real quick, spun the wheel again, landed on one of yours, Mr. Chocolate Bean. Mr. Bean is in a movie as not Mr. Bean. Isn't that weird?
Rowan Atkinson for me in this movie was like a jump scare. I just you said he was in trailers. I never saw him. I wasn't ready for him to be in the movie.
Yeah, he is, and he's not in it immediately either. You got to work your way up to him.
Well, you see him you get a little taste. You get a little taste of the bean.
Yeah,
like halfway through, right before the villain song. And then they starve it. They teased you. They're Mr. Bean edging us.
The best kind of Mr. Bean and the best kind of edging. It's like peanut butter and chocolate just coming together. It's a perfect combination.
Well, they're not coming together. That's the point.
That's a good point. Mr. Bean would be so bad at sex, by the way. It would be a disaster.
I don't know. Tell that to James Acaster's girlfriend.
I guess that's true. What I mean is, I would love to see an episode of Mr. Bean where he tries to have sex with a woman and keeps fucking it up. In classic Mr. Bean fashion, like accidentally puts the condom over his head or something. Like, what would it even be, you know? Sets up the sex swing upside down, gets tangled up in it. Like, it would be great. I love Mr. Bean.
Do they even still make Mr. Bean?
I mean, no. I don't think. I mean, they made those movies. They made the Bean movie and then another
we'll have
one.
To save all these jokes for Johnny English 3.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, maybe they'll come back after this. The kids will be like, that priest looked like he was probably funny and stuff. And then their parents will be like, yeah, here he is.
I don't know if Man vs. Bee didn't do it. I don't know that if Wonka has the juice.
Well, that's the other thing is he because I think I said this about Hugh Grant. He is a comedian that's come out and been like, everything's too woke. Buy my NFTs. Like, so you know, really, I could be fine with a little bit less Mr. Bean.
Has Hugh Grant called things woke? I didn't.
But that's what I'm thinking. Like, he's a step away from that, a step away from being like that kind of curmudgeon, but he's not, and that's why I think we still like him.
Rowan Atkinson has. I know that
he has, and that's why things didn't go well for him in this because he's a bad guy.
He's a bad man who loves chocolate, which I guess in the Wonka universe is apparently a mortal sin.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you're apparently not allowed to love chocolate if you're... Well, I was going to say a Catholic priest, but they might be Anglican. I'm pretty sure
I would assume they're Anglican.
Anglicans still do confession, right?
No, I don't think so.
But they have a confession booth.
You're right. It must be Catholic then. Maybe it's like Wonklick or something, some like weird fake religion that only exists in this city to smuggle chocolate. I mean, I don't think most Anglicans have confession.
Anglicans do confession.
Really? Oh. To who? The priest?
Yeah, just a priest.
What? That's crazy.
I mean, that's what Catholics do confession to. They just do it to the priest. It's not like they run it up the flagpole to the Pope.
Well, but that's the point. I feel like for what I understand, very, very basic understanding of the religion is that the Anglican idea is like anybody can talk to God, kind of. You can all do it, as opposed to Catholics where it's like this guy has a cell phone to this guy has a cell phone to this guy. And if you want to talk to God, you got to talk to him. He's the only one that knows God's number.
The Anglican church doctrines are... We copy pasted Catholicism and put it over here so that our king can get a divorce.
Yeah, pretty much. Man.
Of many of the Protestant faiths, Anglican is one of the closest to Catholicism because it pretty much only existed for the purposes of that guy getting a divorce.
Good for him. I mean, not good for him. Well, I guess good for him as opposed to killing his wife.
Well, he did that also later.
Yeah, he got bored of divorcing. I don't know. Where were we? Oh yeah, Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean, I love Mr. Bean though. I do. I've watched all of the old Mr. Beans. I think he's the best. That's why I want to see him try to have
everything
sex.
he's ever said.
I do. I approve of everything he's ever said. All the things he does in those are good things that have aged well. It's a time where he flashes a bunch of young children, I think, or something.
Oh.
Yeah, one of his bits is him like, I don't remember exactly how this one goes because there's two of them that are him wandering around a place because he like goes swimming and loses his swim trunks, and the other one is he's in a hotel and he gets locked out of his room naked or something. And in one of those, I think it's swim trunks one, he like runs to a bunch of children. And I'm sure this is the 90s. They did not have a whatever intimacy coordinator for whatever that is. But, you know, That's just how things were. It's weird.
That's how it was back then. You ran the risk of seeing Mr. Bean's dick
Yep.
when you went on a set.
He really was like, that was like half of his act was like Mr. Bean touches some fucking machine he's not supposed to touch, and Mr. Bean's pants fell off. Like, and he's great. He's so funny. So weird.
Oh, but it would be the opposite in the Mr. Bean Has Sex.
That's right.
It's like he would try to pull his pants down and they would just go shoot up.
Oh my God, that would be great. The suspenders would like get stuck or something. Try to get his pant legs up so high that he could put his dick through those. Great. All right, listen. There's a market for this, a Mr. Bean porno, but made exclusively like in the style of Mr. Bean. There's no sex whatsoever. Yeah.
No, I think you and I aren't allowed to do podcasts by ourselves. Last time we talked for like 30 minutes about Dan Aykroyd getting a blowjob from a ghost.
Oh, yeah.
And now we're going along on Mr. Bean having sex.
I just think it has to happen. He has a girlfriend sometimes. She's mean. Well, I mean, she's not mean. Well, she's kind of
just
mean.
like all women. Am I right, fellas?
It's weird. I don't know if we're supposed to assume she's his girlfriend for more than the Christmas special because she's mad that he didn't get her a special present. But at the same time, it's like, can you imagine being his girlfriend? It would be infuriating. He's wearing a big old turkey on his head. But like, maybe it's because of her. Maybe she's driven him to madness. I don't know. The Bean lore is deep. You know he's an alien, right?
What?
Yeah, the whole every episode starts with this street of London, and then a big beam comes from the sky, and then Mr. Bean gets dropped onto the floor, and it stands up and it's like, and then walks around. So
it can't be true.
That's how the old show started. I don't know if they've ever actually canonized any of this in like the Bean movies, but he's either an alien or was the result of some sort of alien abduction experiment thing, but I don't know. He doesn't seem like he knows any of our human customs.
Is Mr. Bean an alien is a suggested Google search.
Yeah. It makes sense because that's what he does. He like walks around and touches things he's not supposed to touch because he doesn't know what they are. And then, puts his head in the turkey, which is why having sex would be so funny. Oh, man. But yeah, so anyway, Mr. Bean's in this as a priest.
Yeah, Mr. Bean's in the movie. I guess that was the whole point of the wheel slice. Mr. Bean's here.
He's good, and I liked him in it. I like this weird little army of 500 guys that are never really there. I like his one like side guy or something. Remember that? They had like one like security guard woman whose job was to not let you into the vault unless there was a chocolate. And then she just
the mistress of the keys.
Yeah. What is it with these people? She's like, he gets chocolated and she gets chocolated in a situation where Willy Wonka is running around chocolating people. They deserve what they got. This organization was incredibly flimsy. All right, I spun the wheel again. Landed on one of mine. There were people in that chocolate. So this is going to be something that happens, all the Wonka stuff. But like, I guess the Oompa Loompas are taking all of it anyway, and maybe they don't want to eat it. Maybe they want to worship it or something. Like sometimes that's what they do with the chocolate beans, but like they were in there. You can't eat that anymore, guys.
Yeah, it's not healthy. It's not sanitary.
I'm pretty sure one of them peed their pants. Maybe both of them. They both thought they were going to die in that moment. Like, it's very scary.
Yeah, I'd let it all loose. It's like,
yeah.
Who do I have to impress?
At least if nothing else, I'll ruin this chocolate so they can't enjoy it later. Although that was maybe my favorite joke of the movie, was when they started to drown, or not started to drown, but the room started filling up and they're like, we're going to die. We're going to choke to death on chocolate. And Wonka's like, I have an idea. And he takes out a piece of chocolate. We're going to choke to death on my chocolate. And she's like, no. Swim up to the top or something. That's really funny.
That was good. That was a good joke.
I do want to make one point that I think is weird that does come up here. Okay. So the end of this movie, there's a book. The book is the book of signatures and like the ledger.
The ledger where they put all their crimes.
Yeah. So the good guys have to get the book. So they do. And they're running away from the bad guys. The bad guys trap them in a thing, and then they almost drown, but they don't. And then everything's okay. And then the long lost relative of the one of them is back and
Noodle.
they found her. It's Paddington 2. We're doing Paddington 2 again. I don't know if Paul King has one script that he just changes some of the names on, but like...
And then the bad guys go to jail.
And then the bad guys go to jail. Yeah, do a little musical number. I don't know. It was just the combination of book to drowning to we found your mom. I brought that like back to me. It's like, wow. And he's figured it out. Maybe this is just the formula of good storytelling.
Now, in Paul King's defense, that's Paddington's aunt. It's not his mom.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it is not his mom, and the book is different. The book has puzzles and all kinds of riddles and stuff or whatever. And he doesn't drown in chocolate. Paddington drowns in water, but still very similar.
And he's saved by Sally Hawkins instead of Hugh Grant.
Well, he's saved by Sally Hawkins, but also by all the other weird character actor antagonist guys who were his friends before who, ditched the plane to save him. So that's kind of like what happens in this. Yeah. Also, does that church have a glass floor that shows this chocolate thing?
Apparently, yeah.
Weird.
It's weird because it's supposed to be a big secret.
Yeah, do people think that's the sewer?
Do people? Yeah, what do people think when they look down in it? It's just
right.
Like, I don't know. Churches, man, they got weird stuff.
They got to fix that basement leak. It's not good. It smells awesome though.
Yeah, honestly, like maybe there's something to this God thing because those sewers. I mean, you see brown liquid flowing underground, and like you know what you think, but it smells like chocolate. You're like, damn, okay.
That's pretty cool. That must be why all these chocolatiers keep coming into confessional and disappearing, because they love standing near the chocolate so much. It's their favorite thing.
That would do it, yeah.
All right, last thing on the list. Their wheel. Spun the wheel. Landed on this one. So those guys are dead, right? They floated away into heaven. The first time hover chalk is used, it is in a room with a roof, and then the second time, it's not.
That's not true. The first time hover chalk is used is outside in the Gallery Gourmet.
The Gallery Gourmet has a ceiling, though. There is a...
Oh, you're right.
They hit the ceiling. That's why.
You're right.
In that moment, I'm like, oh my God, Willy Wonka is killing these guys. It's like, oh no, he thought this through. He did not. He probably planned to kill them and then realized, oh yeah, there's a ceiling, so they'll be fine. But these guys, he's like, they'll wear off or it won't. It doesn't matter if it won't wear off Willy Wonka. If they get high enough, they're going to die from freezing or running out of air, or they're going to fall. Like this bird, or not bird, this bee, gets farted out of you. I assume then you just stop flying completely and plummet to the earth. So yeah, I don't know. That's almost like Willy Wonka. Like that bit is like Willy Wonka's cool with killing these guys. And
Willy Wonka's a murderer.
I respect that.
Later in his life, he does murder a bunch of children.
Exactly. Like that's what Willy Wonka Gene Wilder would do. Willy Wonka Gene Wilder would also like take his own life via chocolate to get one over on those guys. But yeah, just a super weird thing. Yeah, that's the end of the movie. And then they have like a little chocolate party and stuff. And they do Pure Imagination.
Yep, they sing Pure Imagination for a thing that's really happening. And I'm like, I don't know.
It's weird because, yeah, the room that is, the building that is a library turns into a house made of books, as if it's not already a library. Like, if it were a house and then it was made of books and then it turned out to be a library, that would be something. But what'd you think of his chocolate factory at the end?
It looked like more or less like the first room of the chocolate factory in the first movie. Yeah, they they looked like the Pure Imagination room. They did the thing with the little God, I don't even know, flowers. One of that flower cup thing that Willy Wonka drinks out of and then eats. I think Hugh Grant had one of those. He did that in the other song, the World of Your Own. Oh yeah, that's right. He does do that in there. Is that a buttercup? Is that what that is? No. I think that's what it's supposed to be. I think that's the joke. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, movie's good. Movie's good. I can tell that we'd like this movie because a lot of the time was spent talking about other bullshit. Trying to figure out how Mr. Bean can get down. Trying to figure out how Mr. Bean gets down and dirty, yeah. as we frequently do when we actually just like the movie.
Do you think they'll make a sequel to this?
If it does well financially, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it's doing pretty well so far. Like I said, I think it made 30 or 40 million, 39 million domestic opening weekend, but I think worldwide it made a lot more. This is the point where it's definitely okay. Yeah, 166 million worldwide on a budget of around 100, 110, something like that.
So it's close to being profitable.
Yeah, I assume they figure around the Christmas weekend it's going to have some, unless Aquaman 2 really comes out of left field and is the movie everyone's been waiting for.
Yeah, it kind of seems like they probably got the family niche cornered for the Christmas season.
Yeah, can you believe them watching Wish? Oh, thank God. It's not good. I was really worried we were going to have to compete with Wish. Instead, we don't because it's bad.
Must have been a huge weight off their shoulders.
Honestly. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a second one of these. I cannot imagine what it would be besides him going to America or something and like trying to open a second chocolate factory.
It's about his torrid love affair with Mrs. Bucket.
Yeah, or imprisoning all the Oompa Loompas or something.
Just enslaving the Oompa Loompas.
Fully getting them. Yeah. We could just do Django Unchained, but from the Loompas' perspective instead. He's the candy guy, right? That's his name?
Is Lofty Samuel L. Jackson's character?
Yes, he is. Exactly.
Oh my God.
I know Quentin Tarantino wanted to make a Star Trek movie that was apparently too gruesome and they wouldn't let him or he didn't want to or something, but like...
He was too worried about his legacy. He was like, if that's the last movie I ever make, like, what would that say about me? And I was like, that you made a movie? I don't know, man.
It's Star Trek, dude. It'd be fun. I don't know. But also it could be Wonka. Wouldn't that be even more fun? Maybe that's what he was waiting for. He has that
weird thing where he's like, I'm only going to make a certain amount of movies and then I'll never make movies ever again. And I'm like,
so weird.
I mean, if you really feel like you only have that many stories, then you fine. But if it's just an arbitrary number, like why?
Yeah. It's and I know his last movie, I think the next one is called The Critic, and it's about a film critic who gets beat up by like people that make movies or something like that. It's very strange. Weird dream he probably has every night that they're making into a movie. And it's like, you could do Star Trek also. I don't know. He probably would be really bad at taking like any sort of, big stupid studio note. Can you imagine though being the guy at like Paramount, Warner, Disney, whatever it is by the time he gets his hand on it, and he'd be like, hey, actually I think it'd be great if Captain Kirk didn't say the N-word 50 times in a row. Just trying to give that piece of notes to Quentin Tarantino. Be scary.
Would he have them say the N-word, or would he invent an alien N-word that everyone would be saying?
Right, like whatever the Klingon version of that is, or there probably is something like that. Yeah.
There probably is, some sort of horribly offensive word in Klingon, considering it's like a whole fake language you can learn on Duolingo at this point.
And they are kind of sometimes treated like a minority of like, I guess they like kind of change depending on seasons, but yeah, that's definitely a thing. Yeah. You want to get to our classic segment?
I would love that, Nando.
All right. Let's recommend some things to the fine people. DJ cannot recommend anything.
No, he's not allowed.
Not allowed. Diggins, would you like to recommend anything to the fine people?
Sure. I have a little bit of a backlog since I wasn't here last week, so I'll try to just quickly go through a few things. Number one, I'm feeling pretty red to filth right now because I did watch May December.
Oh, is it good? You liked it?
I liked it a lot. Yeah. It's, it kind of like uses the trappings of like an old, like a Lifetime Channel original movie. Like the score especially is like straight out of one of those Lifetime movies. And like really adds a lot of humor to the whole thing, which is good because it's a very heavy subject. Do you know what the movie's about?
Kind of. Yeah, I know it's about, all I know is lesbian romance, some sort of abuse. No, not a lesbian romance.
I'm
way off then. I do not know anything.
So you remember Mary Kay Letourneau?
Oh, the teacher?
Yeah.
Oh, May, December. I get it.
So
Yeah.
it's not like literally her, but it's basically that situation where there was a teacher who, or not, she wasn't even a teacher in this version of the story, but
Mm,
she was a 38-year-old woman who had sex with a 13-year-old boy. And
fascinating.
this is like 25 years later. They're married and they have kids and stuff.
Oh.
And Natalie Portman is an actress who's going to play her in a movie. So
Oh.
she comes to be like, "Oh, I wanted to meet you and like ask you questions and like see what your life is like so I could like learn about the character."
Huh.
And it sort of just like stirs up a lot of like old feelings and stuff about like what happened.
Hmm.
And also like Natalie Portman's character herself is maybe not an amazing person.
Hmm.
So it's this really like fascinating kind of look at like what that sort of abuse like does to somebody and like what sort of person does that.
Hmm.
But like I said, it has all these like kind of like Lifetime Channel original movie trappings that like they don't like trivialize the subject, but they make it a lot lighter and funnier. That I think helps make it a lot more digestible than it sounds.
Yeah. That sounds very good. Is there a character in it that's the Bill Maher of this universe who's there to say that he approves of what Mary Kay Letourneau is doing? Because famously he did that on TV.
I remember you made us watch
Yeah.
that.
He's a big fan.
No, well, I mean, Bill Maher probably just is that character in this movie.
Yeah,
Because
that's
other
true.
than the fact that it's not literally Mary Kay Letourneau, it's just set in the real world.
Mm.
Um, but unfortunately, Bill Maher does not make an appearance in the movie.
Damn. Probably too busy.
Um, but yeah, no, that was great. I really enjoyed that. That's on Netflix now, so you could just watch that if you have Netflix. Um, The Country of Finland, very nice. I
Hmm.
recommend it.
Cool.
Specifically, Helsinki and Rovaniemi were the places I went.
Nice. Where'd
Mm-hmm.
you weren't there because obviously this wasn't in Finland, but when was the volcano in Iceland? Was that this weekend?
That was pretty recent, yeah.
Yeah, man. I wonder if you could have seen that from your plane. That would have been cool.
From the plane, maybe.
It looks so insane. Some of those
Because
pictures.
we did fly, over the north
Right? Yeah,
because
I figure.
Finland is extremely far north.
Yeah.
Um, and then also I watched another movie after Finland, called Eileen.
Hmm.
This one is kind of a messed up lesbian romance, sort of.
Hmm. Is this a new
Uh,
one or an older one?
this is a new one. This movie's I saw it in the theater.
Oh.
It stars Thomasine McKenzie and Anne Hathaway.
Thomas and McKenzie from old?
From Old, yeah.
Yeah, from old. Other stuff too, but mostly old.
It's like set in like the 70s. Thomasine McKenzie works in a boys' prison.
Hmm.
Um, and Anne Hathaway is a psychiatrist who recently got hired there.
Oh, I know which movie this is. Yeah.
And they sort of develop a relationship, like a friendship that sort of takes an interesting turn
Hmm.
throughout the movie. I will say, I feel like this movie promises a more sort of depraved, like, plot than it actually ends up having.
Hmm.
But it's very like consciously throwing back to like old noirs, like old Alfred Hitchcock's type stuff. And I like that a lot. That part about it a lot. I think it does a good job of like sort of stylistically calling back to that stuff. And so I had a good time, even though I found it a little slighter than I was hoping. I wouldn't say it was like amazing, but it's good, and I think it was. I'm glad I saw it. Um, and then quick re-rec. I think this is our third time wrecking it. I saw the Sweeney Todd on Broadway
Oh, yeah.
with Josh Groban and Annaleigh Ashford. Great. They're both really, really. Josh Groban's really great. Annaleigh Ashford's extremely funny.
Yeah, she is very funny.
Um, yeah, and honestly, like the staging of it was also like super interesting. The way they like sort of divided the stage with the lighting, which is a very modern Broadway thing to do, but I think they
Mm-hmm.
did it very well.
Yeah, I definitely
Um,
think that opening number is very big, like I don't know, really, really strong opening, and they're just got a lot of energy. It's an exciting show.
yeah, yeah, and it really goes by fast. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
actually like a lot shorter. It's still like a 3 hour show, but I don't know. It just has a lot of energy, like you said. It doesn't. It never feels like it's lagging.
Yeah, sometimes like Sondheim can be tricky like that. But I do think this is probably maybe the most fun one of those. Um,
Yeah, his play about murder and cannibalism is definitely his
yeah,
funnest. I mean, that's not. I mean, I'm saying it like a joke, but it is kind of true. It kind of is his most fun play.
it's the one that I think I would be like, hey, yeah, you'll enjoy this to someone who's not super into Broadway, and be like, yeah, you'll have a good time. As opposed to other ones where I'm like, you might like this, but also you might hate it. It might be your least favorite thing you've ever seen. So you know, take take notice of that.
Mhm. So
Um,
hey, I mean, if you can see it before January, like mid-January, whenever the two of them are leaving, I'm sure it'll still be a good show. But I feel like it'll be a very different show with Aaron Tveit and Sutton Foster.
oh, is that who it is?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's who's
Sutton
replacing them.
Foster's good.
Sutton
Um,
Foster is good, but I feel like she'll be a very different Mrs. Lovett than Annalise Ashford.
yeah, Aaron Tveit was in Schmigadoon, much like the cop from Wonka himself.
Much like the
Um,
cop from Wonka.
he's pretty funny in Schmigadoon too. I like him in that.
I mean, he's a funny guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's like a better singer than Josh Groban. Obviously, I do think my one problem with Josh Groban in this is he's just too cute. Like he never fully sells the like this guy's a maniac thing to me. Um, but it might just be because Josh Groban is a very wholesome looking guy, whereas this guy is evil because he's I don't know. It was in Greece. Uh,
That's what does it.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, those are my recs. What about you, Nando?
Oh, and he was in Catch Me If You Can, a musical I really like, even though it's not very good. Um,
No
the
one ever
so
does.
I watched or I guess experienced or whatever or two things this week. Probably more, but the two are the main two. Um, I watched so the first three episodes. There was a screening in the city this weekend of the first three episodes of the new YouTube but also Nebula series Jet Lag, which is the travel show where they also do challenges and stuff. It is very good. I never really gotten super into it, but this is my first time I like watched it, and I was like, oh, they should do this, they should do that. Um, it does treat like you watch it that stuff and you're kind of conscious of it. It's so interesting how much certain bits of reality show and like that editing is so like we're also familiar with it, how tension is built in a thing like that, even if it's super artificial, whatever. And then also how effective it still is. Like I think those guys are just funny in general, and I think that is a good version of that. But I have seen like other reality shows where you're just like, this is nothing is happening, right? We're just doing the sounds of things, but everybody's not, like nothing's changing. Um, but yeah, so that I think it's on Nebula, but it's also on YouTube. But I think it's like one episode early. It's on Nebula, so it's yeah, the new season they went from the furthest place in America, which is in the top of Alaska, to the southernmost place in America, which I think is in Key West, if you don't count Hawaii. But I haven't gotten that far yet because they're releasing it weekly. The other thing I watched that I love, one of my favorite um, stand-ups, just put out a new special. His name is Gary Goldman. I don't know what else people might know him from, if there's anything else. He's been a
You got
stand-up for
there
a very
too
long
fast
time.
before I could say Ricky Gervais.
Oh my god, he does have a new special. That was actually one of the tweets I saw. Was like, if you're at Thanksgiving or if you're at Christmas with your grandparents and they say they want to turn on that new Ricky Gervais special, put this on instead by accident. They'll probably like it. And it's not Ricky Gervais. Um, But yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about this. He's in Joker. He's the comedian who's at the comedy club before Joker. Which is funny because it's like that's not really his vibe. But maybe the rest of Gotham is just kind of more of a Gary Goldman kind of life. It's hard to describe him. He's very gregarious. He's just very tall, very handsome, like um uh Bostonian
I don't like it when
dude.
handsome people are also funny.
I know, and that's the thing. He's kind of a he's got a very dorky vibe to him, which is helpful. He also, trying to Google this because I feel like it should be somewhere. He like has done a bunch of specials and he was pretty popular. Um, and then he had some sort of hospitalization due to depression or something that really like changed his whole deal. Not necessarily like how he acts or his comedy. Well, like the subject of his comedy. He started talking about stuff like that more. And it was very interesting kind of seeing that. And so he's had two specials since then, I think. One is called The Great Depression. That one's good. Like I like that one. But that one was kind of right after that, I think. So it was like this one, I would say the new one that he just put out, which is called, why am I having so much trouble finding this?
That's a weird
Born
name.
on Third Base. This one I feel like feels more like just a kind of a general special where he touches on a little bit of everything. And I think it's very funny. He's got a lot of good bits about like magic, speaking of Willy Wonka. And yeah, I don't know. There's a couple comedians that are working now where it's just like they're great comedians and they put out a special every so often, and that's it. Like him, Nate Bargatze, Jim Gaffigan, I think, is one of these guys, and then Pete Holmes is another one of these guys where they just got some really solid specials recently. So I think it's on HBO. I'm almost positive it's on HBO. And it's like an hour long. I would say it's one of those things where you watch like 5 minutes, and if you're not into it, then it's probably not for you. But if you are into it, he's quite funny. Besides that, I don't think there's too much else. I haven't watched a new Percy Jackson show, which they released a little bit early. And What If comes out tomorrow.
Santa brought it early.
Santa brought it. Well, Santa. We're about to see some great Santa stuff on Disney Plus. Starring Sam Rockwell in the What If show.
Santa Claus?
Yeah, very
TV
soon.
Show? That's what you're talking about?
No, although Santa Claus apparently is a bitch. That is something we know from Casey Wilson yelling about Tim Allen in a very funny way. But what was I going to say? The What If show comes out soon. I don't even know. Is that tonight? Like 3 a.m. in the morning? I think it is. Jesus, I'm so bad at this. Like between Aquaman, a thing that no one has seen and doesn't exist, and then this, a thing that like is kind of buried under the weight of 2023 for Marvel. It's just like so hard to find some of this stuff. Now, yeah, I think What If comes on in like an hour, so probably end up watching it. But yeah, we'll probably talk about that next week when we will either be doing Aquaman 2 or Rebel Moon 1, I guess. I think we're probably leaning towards Aquaman 2.
I mean, how much longer can we really trust it to be in theaters?
That's a great point. But when it goes off of theaters, it immediately goes on HBO Max. In fact, every screening starts with Jason Momoa going, "Thank you so much for coming to the movie theater. This will be on HBO Max in like 10 minutes, so you're welcome to leave. Thank you for buying your ticket." And then he goes into a little sad monologue about the movie, like that one he did the other day. But yeah, like they're the one who really fucked this up for everybody, honestly, by shortening this release window. So I'd say probably Aquaman 2. Do you have anything you want to plug, Diggins?
Nope. What about you, Nando?
So I have, as of now, I just put a video on YouTube that is my it's funny, it's the Who Should Take Over for Kang video, but I didn't make it because of Jonathan Majors. I made it back when they started talking about having Dr. Doom replace Kang because they were scared that it wasn't working, because it's not. And I made this video a while ago.
Scared it wasn't working because they were correct.
Yeah, because they looked at it and went, it's not. But so I made this video back then, and then some time passed. Now it's going on YouTube, and it happens to be the week Jonathan Majors is guilty of assault and stuff. But this is not because of that. In fact, I think the case could be made. He needs to be replaced for a bunch of reasons.
I mean, it's a little because of that, not because he just got convicted, but because that was happening.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that opened up the conversations, but I think even in a world where that wasn't the case, I think we still should have that conversation because, like, Kang sucks, kind of. It's not good. And Loki did this really nice thing of accidentally getting rid of this character in the end of season 2. So, like, let's just go with that. We could just pretend that was always the plan. But so there's a video about that on YouTube now called "What Should We Do About Kang" or something. Who should be the bad guy in Secret Wars? That's what it is. There's a video on Nebula now. That's the next YouTube video that I've already forgotten what I called it, but it's something along the lines of 5 things Marvel do, or 5 things Marvel can do to save the MCU today, and it's my one of those. And it's just like, here's things you have to start doing tomorrow, but it's not like make better movies. It's like do this
because they'll never do that.
Well, that's that too. If they could have, I'm sure they'd have started, a while ago.
You're not just the video is not just you going like, "Hey, Marvel executives, do better."
Yeah, that's what I do say that in the beginning. This is not that. It is very, very actionable things. Like, for instance, for people that want to watch it, one of them is cancel that Armor Wars movie. Nobody's going to watch it, and it doesn't need a spot in these movies.
Wow,
they just.
I can't believe you'd make such a huge personal sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the only person that cares about this movie. I don't understand why it's on the slate instead of like Spider-Man and all the things people want to see. But things like that will save them from future embarrassment. So that's on Nebula now. This will not come out before tomorrow as of we're recording this. So tomorrow, like today, as of listening to it, is also the day we do the one blank scene video, hopefully. Otherwise, if that's a disaster or something, I'll edit this out. But this one is the last one of them. I'm just calling it one last scene, and it's videos that are about the last scene in some movie and why it's cool.
Well, now, Nando, you say that. Are you pulling a Hayao Miyazaki here?
Or a Quentin Tarantino, maybe, when I'm going to do one Star Trek scene next when I get bored at home because I wanted to do movies again. But no, I feel like, I just can't think of any other ones. Like, we did Marvel, X-Men, villains, musical stuff. Game of Thrones happened. Somebody did Harry Potter. Somebody did fantasy. Like, they've all been done. I could do random actors and stuff. One, Brendan Fraser scene or something like that. But
I mean, you're missing our greatest auteur of
Snyder.
all time.
Snydery scene.
One Snyder scene.
So they did do a DC one that I was not involved with, I believe, because people could just do them, and that's fine. I would suggest someone does that in the future, but I always did want to make one that was just the one called One Last Scene, and that's the last one that I would ever do. So if anybody else wants to try after that, you are welcome. But that video will be out. Mine's about the last scene in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because I watch 10 movies a year, and they're all Marvel movies and Wonka, apparently. So that one's good, though. I like that movie's good.
I say, you watch at least 52 movies a year because we do this podcast.
Yeah, but like, is Candy Cane Lane a movie? Like, I don't think so. I don't know what it is, though. No one does. Can a movie be a movie if nobody sees it or remembers they saw it?
If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, etc., etc.
So that video will be on YouTube and Nebula and stuff. I put them up at the same time, so there's not like the lag like usual. And then there'll be other people with those videos too, so everybody should watch them. And yeah, next week after Christmas, I imagine. But before New Year's, we will have an Aquaman thing for everybody. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, holiday break and stuff, whatever you're doing. If you're traveling, travel safely and have fun. And I've been at Nando V Movies on Twitter.
I'm at This Is an Odd Name.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.